Hello, as a preliminary matter, I am Jillian Prendergast. I am the chair of the Finance Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Committee members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Katie Moore,
Yes.
Linda Holt,
Yes.
Kevin Stone,
Yes.
and Nathan, I saw you just logged on. Can you hear and be heard?
Yes, I can.
Great. And so town staff that's anticipated on the call. So Greg,
Yep. Hi.
Justin.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, thanks. And it seems like we also have some other participants today from the public. Welcome. So good evening. This is a public meeting of the Finance Committee. It is being conducted via Zoom in accordance with the House Law 58, which allows this meeting to take place fully remotely. Speakers on the agenda will be participating remotely, and we may allow for public comment tonight. So there is a very long rest of the script, which I don't think is completely necessary. But basically, we're all going to have a great meeting tonight, and I'm going to pull up the agenda today. So on the agenda, we have graciously Justin has come to talk to us about, so our main goals tonight are to look over the STM articles to make recommendations for all of them. So far we've only voted on one. We need to vote on all the other ones, either recommending or not recommending, and then providing a short paragraph. And I need to get that to Greg, I think by tomorrow or the day after, to make sure it's included in the printed for the warrant. So I've circulated some draft comments to you all, but they're definitely drafts. They're not finalized because obviously we haven't voted on them, all of them. And I think hopefully that will expedite things so we can go through those tonight. I think for us to make an informed decision, it was really great of you to join us, Justin, because some of the articles, for me at least, were a little confusing. So I think some of the context could be super helpful. And I believe that is the first item on our agenda is discussing with you.
All right, Jillian. So I'm assuming I only have two controls articles on special town meeting. Are you referencing Article 6 and Article 7?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the new numbers because I'm used to the letters.
That's okay. We can name them too. Proposed roadways, easements, and acceptance of roads.
Yeah, so I can show. So these are the ones that I'm currently aware of in the last draft that I got. So I'm not sure if that's too small, but
Nope, that's okay. So that's 6 and 7. Yeah. And did you have any other that you think that you needed to discuss with me? Because you said that there was a larger scale here.
we recently got a new one about some acceptance of other roads and easements, but I didn't know if that was in your wheelhouse. It sounded like something potentially from the development next to CVS, so I wasn't sure.
I can probably answer some of those questions. I'm usually involved in every single one of these in some stage, but mostly the two controls that I put forward are 6 and 7. But if you want, I can discuss 9, but it's your agenda, Jillian. So you
yeah, I think for me, understanding just the process of how roads are accepted and, the difference between accepting roads and accepting easements, I think would be something, because we have a lot of new members on our committee as well, too.
All right, perfect. So what we can get started with, Jillian, I did send you the updated maps for the roadway acceptance. Are you able to share that? And maybe easier to kind of walk through the conversation.
Sure.
And by the way, hello, Nathan and Marianne. You are new members that I have not been able to introduce myself to at this time, but welcome. And Linda, oh wow, you guys have a lot of new members. Welcome. Welcome to the Finance Committee. And Kevin and Katie, it is good to see you as well. And then I think you're only missing Peter. Jillian, do you have any other new members?
No.
Excellent. Welcome. I'm Justin DeMarco, Public Works Director. but I am kind of wrapped in many hats in the town of Maynard. So I'm also the facilities manager and the tree warden. So I'm able to assist with a lot of conversation and or questions related to a lot of the articles. That's most likely why Jillian was asking at the beginning if I can make comments to any of those articles as well. But so what we have here, these are what's called survey maps. They're called meets and bounds, and this is a delineation. So I'll give you a general overview. Article 7 is actually what pushes Article 6. So Article 7 is a conversation that's been had with the select board in regards to the degradation of many roadways within the town of Maynard. The small, tiny town of Maynard actually has 48 unaccepted roads. So unaccepted roads mean non-town property. So they're roadways that you may drive every day, you may not, that you would assume are owned by the town of Maynard. Unfortunately, we have 48 out of almost 220 roads that are unaccepted. So a rough estimate, about 20% of our roadways are actually non-accepted roads. Now, there's a difference between a private way and an unaccepted road. The difference is a private way is designed to never be a town-owned property or a public roadway. An unaccepted road is usually a process where a developer of a subdivision never followed through with the necessary steps to ask the town to adopt the road at the development of a subdivision. Unfortunately, in Maynard, we can trace a lot of this back to a small handful of developers who have failed Maynard as a whole, and it was really its second boom in housing, which was done anywhere between the 50s and 70s. And with that being said, there's a lot of residents in town that are very frustrated with the process that we have so many unaccepted roads, and one, quite frankly, don't even know when they buy their house that their road isn't an accepted road. This is really not necessarily the town's miseducation or misalignment. It's really unfortunate that real estate agents don't dig deep enough to kind of give their potential buyers enough information. But that brings us to the precipice of where we're at. We receive a significant amount of correspondence regarding work that our residents want on roadways and their degradation. And unfortunately, we have a bylaw that prohibits the town from repaving unaccepted roads. So we're kind of working against the policy there. With that, about 2 years ago, I pitched to the town select board at the time that we start the eminent domain process of acquiring unaccepted roads at a paced progress over the next 5, 10, 15 years, depending on the resources we have to put forth. There is a small incremental cost to put this forward. We have to resurvey the subdivision. So what you're seeing in front of you is Heights Terrace. And if you go down to the next page, I want to say that it's Fletcher. That's Fletcher Street. And then number 3 is Allen Drive. So all of these were subdivisions that a developer built and had a plan set that included these roadways, and the developer built the roads, they built the parcels, they built the houses, they sold them, and then they walked away, and the town has not necessarily adopted the roads. These roads are in deplorable condition. I'll be the first to tell you that driving these roads is embarrassing to the town of Maynard, and they are beyond degradation. So we worked diligently to have these resurveyed, and the survey actually includes the original subdivision plan and the survey map, which you see in front of you, which is the taking, and that defines the taking. So if you look at Allen Drive, the bold lines outside, so if you read from right to left, you can see Great Road, but you'll see bold property lines. So the road looks really straight, right? But if you look inside, there's faded lines. The faded lines are the actual asphalt and the way the current road lays out. The defined bold line is actually the meets and bounds of the property line and actually how the developer was supposed to build the road. So we'll be taking, per se, if town meeting votes it, the property within that black bound line that chases the roadway. And if you notice on Allen, you'll come to a left where you actually go down south. And there is a cul-de-sac defined, but that was never actually built. So there's this big bubble off to the left on the 90-degree. That's actually somebody's property. So what we're looking for is the town to adopt these 3 streets at special town meeting, which would allow the town to move forward with allowing us to implement a pavement management program, which we currently have for all of our town accepted roads, and allow us to pave it in the future utilizing funds such as Chapter 90, which is state funding for roadways and sidewalks, with allocations from localized funding, which typically happens through free cash allocations at town meeting. Now, free cash allocations of roadways and sidewalks isn't a consistent. Our Chapter 90 is. We typically receive anywhere between $260,000 and $270,000 a year in Chapter 90 funds that the select board utilizes for roadway repaving, sidewalk replacement, etc. Now, that may seem like a lot of money to most. It is not. It typically allows us to move on about 1 to 2 streets on average a year with just a pavement replacement. That does not include stormwater replacement or sidewalks. With that being said, these 3 streets, Allen Heights and Fletcher, as an exercise in our potential goal here, we implemented these in our BMP, which is our pavement management plan. And through the algorithm, these 3 actually scored the highest ranking for replacement, which is what we assumed would happen. But one, we wanted to make sure, in the essence of fairness, that as these roads are being accepted, they're placed in our pavement management plan, and that doesn't guarantee they'll be paved right away. They'll fall in line with all of our traditional industry standards, and they'll find their place based off of all the dynamics that the pavement management plan incorporates, all the variables such as use, degradation, etc. So these, out of the 3 sets, 2 and 3 are pretty basic. Fletcher and Allen Drive do not require an easement. They are just a road taking. If you go back to Heights Terrace, which is number 1, you'll see that if you kind of go back to the idea of what I was describing, you'll see that there is Riverview Ave on the right, and you'll see that there is a bold line that looks, and Heights Terrace actually follows it. And in between that, you'll see a very faded dotted line that skirts over 2 abutting properties. That is the actual roadway. So the developer planned a subdivision and then built it completely different. This happens actually more than you would think, but because the developer also owned both properties, that developer created an easement on parcel, I think that's actually, one is Scott and Katie Moore, and the other one is Brian Mannion. So there's technically an easement that's wrapped into their deeds. Unfortunately, the developer of Heights Terrace, just like most developers in the town of Maynard, never followed through. So technically in their deeds, they have an easement, but the developer never followed through with the registry of deeds. In order for the town of Maynard to actually repave the road on Heights Terrace, not Fletcher, not Allen, but on Heights Terrace, we need to execute a 1 and a 1A. We need to execute an easement agreement with Brian Mannion and Scott and Katie Moore to allow for the current easement that's under the deed to be documented properly. And then number 2, we need to accept Heights Terrace as a town public right-of-way, which is why there's 2 controls or 2 articles. Without the easement agreements in place, we cannot repave the asphalt on Heights Terrace, even if we accept Heights Terrace as a public right-of-way. The road connects to Stowe's property, which is Heights Terrace. This is actually one that curves Stowe and Maynard's line. And if we can't follow the easement lines as they were documented and as they were provided, we can't actually repave a road to nowhere. This would be a dead-end street to a bank end, thus cutting apart Stowe and Maynard. Now, this is a conversation that we'll be having with the abutting parcel owners, both Brian Mannion and Scott and Katie Moore, in more detail, just to understand the process of the easement and what they would prefer or not prefer, depending on what it is. The control and article may change on town meeting floor. If we can't acquire those easements, then we would not necessarily pursue Heights Terrace as an accepted roadway, as we can't actually execute what we came to do, which is repave a road. That is why there's two controls and two articles, and you may see more in the next fiscal cycle as we move through this process. If we are unsuccessful at town meeting with any of the roads being accepted, you may not see us continue with that plan. This is 100% up to the town meeting voters. There's a reason there's 48 unaccepted roads. As years past, the town has chosen not to accept private roads and or subdivision roads in the past. And with that, the onus of the road's responsibility technically falls on the parcel owners. So let's just take Heights Terrace. Technically right now, Scott and Katie Moore and Brian Mannion own half of Heights Terrace, and they are responsible for half of Heights Terrace. The other abutter, Michael and Jennifer New, actually own the other half. So there is a roadway that is owned by 3 residents that is being utilized as a public access. Now, Heights Terrace is a little different. I could easily say on Fletcher Street, it's literally a highway. But Heights Terrace, you can argue there is more people use Heights Terrace than you can imagine. So it is one of those situations where we're either relying on our residents to take care of our publicly accessible roads, or we're asking the town to implement that process as it does through most of its town accepted roads. And that's the premise of these 2 articles. Is there any questions?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to vote on this one.
This is you, Katie, right?
It'd be on my house is on that first little Katie and Scott Moore corner. And Justin, it's not Michael and Jennifer. Those names are, they're different owners. I don't know if that matters.
So this is the most recent meets and bounds, and that is actually who is still on the deed.
Oh, I wonder who that is.
This was conducted less than 6 months ago.
I don't know who those people are. So
Yeah.
Melissa and Don Crow live on, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I don't know that I could vote on this in any case. So
That's off to you, Katie, for disclosing that and being transparent about it. I was going to ask anyways if this was
Well,
you.
well, yeah, it is. In that parcel, just Justin to ask. So Melissa and Doug Crode are technically on the Stowe line, but I feel their septic runs into Maynard, and there's a piece of like land across from our house that no one maintains, and it's just land. I wonder if that's the land.
Whoever, nope, it's never land. Somebody always owns something. So
Interesting.
it's Michael and Jennifer New who own that.
Yeah. I'll have to let them know.
Yeah,
All right.
and then like I said, whatever, typically when this is Massachusetts, so there's no land untouched. This isn't.
Yeah.
So really, this is one of those situations where there's always a property owner and a parcel owner. And when that happens, if you actually go to Allen, if you can, Jillian, if you can go to 3, and you go to the left, and see this big circle and blow it up where it says private way owner unknown, that's the only time that happens. So we do identify owner unknown.
Yeah.
Based on case law and the subdivision law, Seth and Allison Jeanette own to the center line of that. Craig and Alex Boyer own to the center line. And if you go down further, Michael Moynihan and Lydia Nelson own to the center line. So that's actually how that works, because at the end of the day, Allen Drive, again, is not public property. So Michael Mannion and Lydia Nelson own to the middle of Allen Drive, and Brandon Burke owns to the middle of Allen Drive. It is actually the responsibility of all these parcels. So like private ways, typically you would set up a collective agreement where they pay an association fee and they would upkeep their public infrastructure, or technically their private infrastructure. That has not been the case, and is not the case in many unaccepted roads across town of Maynard.
So I do have a question for Justin and Greg. Is there a financial incentive for a developer to not fill out the application to incorporate a road into the town of Maynard?
More of a lack of follow through, and there's no recourse to it. So the financial incentive would be if the developer continued to own and operate this subdivision. But by selling off every single parcel, they've then thus put it on the property owner and have walked away. Typically what ends up happening, Kevin, is when a subdivision starts to develop and they start to be sold off, the residents who initially buy do their due diligence and they either form an association or they force the developer in their P&S to move on the road acceptance. The developer that has typically performed this in this long time frame across Maynard was savvy enough to convince those homeowners to not move in that direction.
Is there a cost to have a road accepted to a developer? I'm just worried about if there's any moral hazard here that we may be creating by accepting these roads.
So
this doesn't happen very often, by the way.
Okay.
And it doesn't happen really anymore because the development has to go through significant amount of hurdles, bureaucratic hurdles, planning board, zoning board, etc., before it even gets to this part. So this is pretty rare. But I think the moral hazard is really, it's on behalf of those owners a long time ago that the developer built with and didn't sort of like hold the what I presume would be the terms of a purchase and sale agreement with the developer that he or she was actually going to follow through with this. So there's no one really to point fingers to nowadays with this property, and probably I don't think I doubt that if we were looking at all these unaccepted roads that there would be really anyone that we could hold accountable for. But in this case,
the developer of these has gone bankrupt and is no longer an LLC.
Well, there you go.
So what happened, Kevin, is there's no bond held, there's no method and means to move it forward outside of the process that you're seeing now. Or an association formed of every subdivision owner and moving their own process forward, which is very hard when you're talking about second, third, fourth generation homeowners that don't even understand that this is an unaccepted road most of the time.
Yeah, and even their realtor may not even realize that it was this complicated. But then, but when we work deals with developers and for maybe a downtown, or maybe there's some sort of circumstances that the town has some sort of influence, then we might, as Justin just mentioned, we might require a bond from the developer. And then if the developer doesn't follow through with whatever sidewalk improvements or whatever sort of conditions, then we use that bond that we're holding in escrow.
Yeah, you will be surprised though, just kind of piggyback off, Wisteria Lane is currently going through this process.
Okay. I have another question, but I'll let other members ask first if they have any.
I have a question. I was wondering if any of the 48 unapproved roads, or non-accepted roads, are any of those residents forming an association to maintain those roads, or are they all in a state of relative disrepair from 6 decades of non-management?
You got it. It's the second, Nathan. So no association is formed on unaccepted roads because they didn't move towards a private way process. That's typically the difference between an unaccepted road and a private way, where they do form an association and they dictate the terms of use of that road as well. So they may actually not allow for pass and repass of public use. All of the unaccepted roads are not meeting that process, and they are at a point of degradation.
Can you give me any further guidance on the algorithm that picked out these 3 roads out of those 48 and why these are the highest priority?
So it wasn't that it picked it out. So we don't have a significant amount of roads. So if you look at the comments on the article, the Department of Public Works over the course of almost a decade put together a significant amount of research to allow for a complete and thorough vetted process of accepted versus unaccepted roads. You have to understand that the road acceptance process is always a town meeting. So we had to archive through all of the town meetings to see approved and non-approved or accepted and non-accepted roadways. When we did that, that's the list that we were able to come up with, which was 48 unaccepted roads. As part of the pitch to the select board for this particular plan, which would be to slowly incorporate unaccepted roads, we allowed for our pavement management plan to take account of all 48 accepted roads, which then puts it into our into our process, and it punches it out with many variables. It's use rates, it's current asset degradation. So it takes a pavement management index counter. It also prioritizes primary roadways, secondary arteries, etc. And that algorithm punches out the most appropriate. So we'll just take an easy one for an example. Is Great Road is a town accepted roadway, and just that Great Road is used at X versus something like even Assabet Street. So it has a high likelihood of its degradation never meeting Assabet's before it is prioritized for repavement due to the sheer fact of insurance liabilities for use, et cetera, et cetera. So with Heights, Fletcher and Allen, we actually implemented all 48 into our system, and these 3 came out actually behind 3 others that are accepted, that are in the process of being repaved this fall. What's going to happen is it's very predictable, but the subdivisions were built together are failing together. So it's based off of years in life expectancy. So what's going to happen is we're most likely going to see 2 to 3 unaccepted roads pounce up together as they were most likely built as a subdivision together in the future.
I have additional questions, but I think Linda had one at the same time as me.
Justin, I had 2 questions on Heights Terrace. So that was the one that goes to Stowe. So how do we make sure that we're not going to build a road to nowhere on Heights Terrace? My second question about Heights Terrace is you had a dotted line where the road is, and then a solid line where the road was supposed to be. So what is the plan there on Heights Terrace?
So technically, we have to accept the meets and bounds of the original subdivision plan layout. So that's the bold line. So that's the road acceptance article. The easement is the actual dotted line of the real road build. So no matter what, for Heights Terrace, we need to accept the easement and the acceptance of the road. As you can see, it goes through both. So in order to have a road to nowhere, which would connect to Stowe and its current Heights Terrace, we need the easement. So on this particular roadway, the developer failed us in multiple situations. They did not build the approved plan to scale, and nobody was able to confirm that or not. That's most likely why Heights Terrace has never been accepted. But the method and means is to accept an easement and allow an easement for right and repass over those 2 property lines and parcels and the town acceptance. And then that will allow the town to repave Heights Terrace as you know it within the bounds of Maynard to meet industry standards of today's roadway width. Without it, it's a road to nowhere. And if it's very hard to see this on a piece of paper, but just so you know, where it says Heights Terrace private way, 40-foot wide, and then it says Heights Terrace area equal, there's an extreme topography change. It is a banking.
That was my question, Justin, is that on that line, I mean, you've been on the road, but it goes from paved to basically dirt. So Stowe has likely never paved that area official. Is there any is Stowe and Maynard, is there any way of them working together on that road, or is that not likely? Is it always going to stop on that line?
It has to. So we can only expend taxpayer money within the town of Maynard. I have spoken to the superintendent of Stowe on several occasions, very similar, Katie, on Assabet. There's a reason Assabet goes from paved to dirt. Stowe chose not to move forward with this process. Heights Terrace and Stowe is an unaccepted roadway. That is why they choose not to pave it. I will also say, though, based on the sheer fact that we receive more feedback from our residents that wanting to have a road accepted versus Stowe's process. But again, they need to go through town meeting. It's the same exact process that they would have to execute. They also have a bylaw prohibiting the town from expending funds on unaccepted roads.
Okay.
Do you know what the street name is that's shown there? I see it's Heights Terrace, but is it what the street name is on Google Maps? I'm trying to take a peek to see.
Yeah, it's Heights Terrace, Kevin.
No, yeah, Kevin, Google Maps is not right. This is the official stamped plan. Heights Terrace.
Okay.
The way it is.
Okay, I see the street now. Okay, so it is Heights Terrace. Okay, so I'm just checking to see where this sits in our town, and I'm just looking at this now. This could possibly be a route our residents would take to get into the Assabet River Wildlife Refuge.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Mhm. This is a connector from Maynard to Stowe. It also connects back to more Maynard residents. When you
Yep.
go over White's Pond Bridge, maybe I'm saying that wrong, it's in Stowe. It actually, there's Maynard residents on the left before you enter the state forest or the Federal Reserve.
So I think it's important to note when we write our recommendations for this, that this road in particular, the improvements to this road would impact not only the adjacent residents, but also our residents that want to go hike in the refuge or want to bike or drive or whatever. This road connects our main downtown Main Street area to one of the access points for the refuge. The other one, the one that you showed previously, I'm forgetting, trying a blank on the name a sec, but the other one was a dead end.
Fletcher.
Was it? Yeah, this
Allen.
Fletcher. This one, is this one a dead end street?
No, this connects Gray Road to Assabet. So this whole neighborhood is relying on Fletcher and or Assabet and Stowe.
Okay. So both of these are traversal points used to get to key landmarks within the area.
And then Allen is literally right before Fletcher if you're traveling Gray Road in the same direction.
Okay, so all of these, it's not just the adjacent property owners that are impacted, but it's quite clear based upon like their location that they are well used by other residents.
Well, except for Allen, right? Because that's
Yeah.
just like a little one-way street.
Yeah, let me see. It's Allen Road, right?
Allen Drive.
Allen Drive. Yeah, let me just take a peek really quick. Drive. Yeah, Allen Drive. Allen Drive is the dead end. Is the dead end road that goes to a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, and how these articles work is they either pass or they don't, or they get amended on the floor. So,
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
So Allen Drive is bundled in with the others, or which I think it's bundled in. Yeah. So okay. Allen Drive is bundled in, but I think on the whole, most of these roads have an impact outside of their adjacent properties.
Why were these three roads in particular bundled together instead of like all 48 at once or just one
We
road,
don't-
two roads?
So Nathan, as part of my comments, we actually don't have the funding to execute the meets and bounds survey for all 48. The road layout process also takes legal counsel a significant amount of time to go through deed research. So all of the deed research costs a significant amount of money. So doesn't the survey meets and bounds. The reason these three were bundled together is the way that they popped out in our pavement management plan. Again, these subdivisions were all built together at a very similar time, which is why they're all degrading at the same time. What's the hardest part to understand here, Nathan, is actually if you're familiar with the neighborhood, Assabet Street and Shore Street are town accepted roads. They're also in that neighborhood. So at one point, residents moved forward only on their singular streets instead of focusing on the whole subdivision as a whole, which is why we have a hodgepodge of accepted roads versus non-accepted roads in an overall subdivision plan. Fletcher Street literally is the only way to get to Assabet, Shore Ave, Heights Terrace, unless you go through Stowe, which the special permit for the subdivision was in Maynard. So it's very strange to see that approach, and that's also a siloed approach as opposed to a community approach. The DPW looks at the community as a whole, not as a singular source. So we try to accomplish the greatest good here. I would love to see all 48 roads accepted, Nathan. At this point, the amount of emails that we receive indicating that we're not doing our jobs based on the degradation of the roads, people don't really want to truly understand that their roads as unaccepted roads are their responsibility, nor should they. At this point, we're in the 21st century, and there's an indication that we're using these roadways as public roadways. shouldn't we be repairing them appropriately and moving our community forward as a whole? And that was our approach here. We're going to do it in a incremental, progressive approach just because of lack of overall funding and resources the town of Maynard has. But I would tell you right now, if I was given $500,000 to execute all 48, that I would do it tomorrow.
So if this passes, is the idea to survey like another like 3 streets next year? Like what's the?
Yep, Nathan, you got it. So it would be a yearly approach to move on our 48 unaccepted roads. And it is based off of the pavement management plan's algorithm process of punching them out. So as our yearly pavement management plan focuses on the priorities for pavement, we would identify that and cross-reference it against our accepted and unaccepted roadway list. And if unaccepted roadways came out with a high priority, we would move on the means to survey them and start the road layout process. And we would hopefully see a town meeting 1 to 2 to 3 a year, incrementally taking our 48 down to 0 over time.
All right. What is the what would be the funding source for the repairs and all the research, the legal research needed to accomplish this article? What would be the funding source for this? Is this already budgeted for in your DPW roads budget, or is there another funding source you would go after?
Oh, Kevin, we don't have a DPW roads budget. So I will tell you this, we are doing this in a very strategic approach. We do have a general consultant engineering budget that we use to support the DPW and its process. So the survey meets and bounds of 1 to 2 roads is something that we can handle within our yearly operating budget. We cannot do 48 under that budget, no way. In regards to the road replacement program, all of the unaccepted roads and accepted roads were accepted by the state as Chapter 90 funded roads. So technically, Chapter 90 funds is what we heavily rely on to repave all of our roadways within the town of Maynard. And that would still stay true with our process, whether we move forward with accepting these roads or not. We always request localized funds to subsidize our road pavement management program. If you're not aware, we're falling farther and farther behind our pavement management goals. So I request almost $1 million a year in free cash to subsidize our road pavement management plan. We're falling behind by an average of $600,000 to $700,000 a year, based off of only utilizing our 260,000 Chapter 90. And in my 4 years, we've probably seen anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 localized funds a year. So to kind of give you an overview, Kevin, we're relying heavily on Chapter 90 with small incremental allocations from localized funding.
And what impact would accepting these roads have on the Chapter 90 funding? Would that increase the amount we would receive from the state, or is it like a fixed amount based on like some formula has no relation to the amount of road surface we have?
No, so it's twofold. So it does have to do with the amount of lane miles that we have in the town that are accepted under the Chapter 90 program. So technically, all of our 48 unaccepted roads have been accepted under Chapter 90. So we are actually already receiving funds like those are our roads under Chapter 90. But accepting these roads will not increase our Chapter 90 allocation. It's already baked into our Chapter 90 allocation. So technically, we're receiving the benefits of these 48 unaccepted roads, but we're not able to actually fund repairs to them because of our local bylaws.
So kind of the spirit the spirit of the money we're receiving from the state is supposed to go to these roads, but we're unable to spend to them based on our local laws. Okay.
Yes, correct.
All right. I've satisfied all my questions. Justin has satisfied all my questions. Thank you for the other members for letting me have that extended line of dialogue.
All right. I do want to do a time check here. So, Linda? Oh, you're muted.
There we go. I just had a question about town services that you get on the road. So I'm assuming fire and police have to drive on these unrepaired roads, possibly school buses. Do they get trash pickup, snow removal, or hydrants? Do they have to maintain their own hydrants? No, the town will maintain the hydrants, but they will get trash. So all the municipal services are going there. And so at great peril to fire, police, school buses, trash. Okay, thank you.
We plow those roads?
Yes, we do it under the precipice of public safety. Because if we do not plow them, others will not. And if somebody is injured or hurt, our public safety can't get there. Those are the loose authorities that, well, not necessarily loose authorities, but those are the authorities as public safety that we can supersede a bylaw. They receive every service minus the fact that we can repave those roads.
Good to know. Do you have any final comments, Katie?
I'm holding back. I promise, guys. My last comment was just that there's a bus stop on the bottom of Fletcher, and it's a pretty steep hill that, because of the way the road has degraded and the way the water flows in the winter, becomes dangerous is a light word that I would like to use, but just that, there's probably 15 to 20 children that between Green Meadow and Fowler and the high school that use that bus stop. And that's just also a comment, I guess a citizen's comment that I would throw out, that it's also part of our school system, one of those roads where it picks up.
These are Articles 6 and 7, correct?
Yes, these are Articles 6 and 7. I was actually also, if you would allow me, Justin, to ask you about Article number, what is it, 11?
Is that
The
the
one-
recent 115 easement?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming your question is based off of the overall plan and the easement. I have not, do you mind pulling up, do you actually have, I think Greg just had it finalized. Okay, there you go.
Can you
Yes.
see it?
Yeah. Okay, so this
Is
is
it
kind of in the, yeah. So this is somewhat in the essence of the conversation that Kevin actually brought up at the beginning. Like, what's the process and why do we have unaccepted roads and what happened and what was the potential failures, not failures, kind of how did we get here? So currently right now, the town of Maynard has a significant amount of zoning bylaws, special permit process through planning board, and that's how towns adapted to resolve some of the issues that you see in the cause of unaccepted roads from subdivisions so long ago. So technically what you see in front of you is a plan that had to go through planning board, which required a special permit to allow it to supersede some bylaws and to build something not necessarily in conformance, but that doesn't necessarily mean it can't be built and it cannot be a community, project that the town of Maynard can move forward. It just has to go through its due diligence and vetted process. So the planning board recently approved a modification. It previously approved a overall plan for the reuse of 115 Main Street by a private property developer, and then recently approved a modification based off of the developer's change in their overall plan. With that being said, there's two folds here that kind of move beyond the private and public property line. So think of kind of go back to the maps that I said, don't literally go back, Jillian, but in your minds, just kind of go back to the basic maps of Heights, Fletcher, and Allen, where you saw bold line squares with somebody's name in it versus the street, etc. So what we have here is a private property owner within their bounds, and in order to accomplish a significant amount of goals that the community wants and the developer want, they have to supersede or overstep their bounds into public property. One of those is the green, or I'm not necessarily colorblind, maybe that's a bluish teal color. That is an area that's actually public property that the developer would need to access their new development in order to meet the overall goal of the plan that they have pushed forward through the planning board. The DPW has reviewed this and provided comments, and those comments have been satisfied in a DPW perspective, which is impact to public property, etc. And what you have in front of you is a permanent easement, very similar to the Heights Terrace process, where we have to have a documented easement because they're actually superseding their lines. So they're on public property. That will have to be registered in their deed as well as the town's deed. And then in the red, that's actually the opposite. So it's a twofold here. The town is actually acquiring an easement on private property, which is the red, which is a promenade. That promenade would act like a public space on the river that met a lot of the master plan goals and the planning board goals. So the planning board asked the developer to provide an easement for town use, town property use, meaning public use. Anybody can use it like a park on the area in red, and in exchange, they needed some area on the town property, which is that tealish blue, to make this overall project fit within the criteria, the rules and regulations of the planning board, zoning, etc. So that's what this entire document is allowing, is the town to acquire an easement in red and the developer to acquire an easement on the town in the teal.
Okay. The thing I am most confused about is I'm not used to reading these maps. Is the red the riverside?
Yes, that's the river. You're right in the river right there. That's
Okay, and this is
literally
the bike,
river.
the bike
Yeah,
trail up
that's
here.
the bike trail
Okay.
bridge. There you go,
Yep.
Joan. What are you talking about? You nailed
I don't know. I'm not good with maps.
it.
Just ask my dad. Got us lost all the time.
So just for kind of peace of mind, that is the pedestrian bridge that goes over the Aspet River, and that is actually the parking lot that leads towards Subway, is that back area right there. So CVS would be on the right of this, on the dotted line on the right.
And is this the existing parking lot back there right now?
Yep, that's the existing municipal lot that kind of goes behind CVS and Subway.
Yep. Got it. Okay.
Does that
Um,
help answer your questions or give
That
some
answers all my
context?
questions.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Oh, the other
I
question I had, sorry. Once this easement is granted in red, will it be the responsibility of the town to upkeep that?
So that is a great question, Jillian. So we have actually also executed a development agreement and an easement agreement that allows for the easement use, but it defines the criteria of responsibility. And the town of Maynard is very limited in its responsibility of that location.
Okay, great. Because
That
a
is one
little
that,
bit underwater right now, so.
yep, that's the one that's negotiated by the select board with in accordance with DPW, all your major departments, planning, etc.
Thanks.
do have a
The-
process question that I want to ask the committee and the chair. Do we want to vote on them for each category of article? Like, do we want to like discuss like the road easements and then vote on the easements? Or do we want to wait and vote on everything at the end?
I would personally recommend to bundle articles, was it 6 and 7? The ones that are sort of related?
So Jillian, so just some context. The reason that I asked for the numbers of 6 and 7, which I requested, was because if we don't acquire the easement, we may have to have an amendment on the floor to remove Heights Terrace as an accepted road. So it's technically, we need to see how that plays out. So if we're not granted the easement allowance, then Heights Terrace means nothing for the acceptance process. So it may have to be modified and removed from the road acceptance request.
Okay, and Article 6 is just easements for Heights Terrace.
Yeah, Article 6 is only related to Heights Terrace.
Why does it say River Ave Maynard? Is that where the owners live now or something?
Where are you reading? I'm sorry, Jillian.
Right here?
That says Aspet River Rail Trail. Are you talking in parentheses?
Nope. Hold on. I'm having. It says require easement from the owners of 17 Riverview Ave Maynard.
We're not looking at the same thing.
Oh, Jillian, we're still looking at the
Oh, sorry.
115
I'm
easement.
sorry. Let
You're
me
sh-
share.
you're
I'm sharing the
sharing-
wrong window. I'm a dum
Yeah.
dum. Okay. Here we go. Do you see this now? 17 River Ave.
Oh, that should not read that.
Okay. Cause I was like, where's River Ave and why does that have anything to do with this?
Let me see that for a second. Give me 1 second.
I'm assuming maybe that was supposed to be deleted and it's supposed to say, like, all of this is supposed to be deleted and it's supposed to start here instead.
Yeah, we got this from legal counsel. We're gonna have to put a little fact check on that.
Okay, because yeah, I mean, it's just like the sentence started out of nowhere, so I just was a little confused.
Yeah, that is, it shouldn't say that. So it's really funny that it goes into as an easement from the owners of Four Heights Terrace managed proposed roads easement A. So the only thing I can see, if you can pull up the map again of Heights, Fletcher Allen.
Bippity-boo. Really testing my
So
ability to do
easement
it today.
A and B is actually Katie Moore and Mannion. So the only thing is someone may own two properties, but that shouldn't be that way. I just want to double check.
Yep, I think I have to try again. That's the remote meeting script. Shoot. I think I closed it.
That's
So-
all right. Don't worry. I will double check. It's on my to-do list for tomorrow morning and we'll update that if there's an edit. But so just for the board's voting purposes, this is only for two easements on Heights Terrace on the map as shown as Katie Moore and Scott Moore and Matt Mannion, which are both Heights Terrace abutting parcels.
Okay, so it's easements on Heights Terrace.
Yep.
So I'm contemplating a motion, but I want to make sure I get this right. Is Katie only impacted by Article 6 or is she impacted by Article 6 and Article 7?
She's technically only impacted by Article 6, but she also is an abutting property owner to Heights Terrace for Article 7.
Okay. So I mean, Katie, what are your thoughts? Because I want to make a motion, but I don't want to bundle these together. If one of them you feel like you have to abstain on, and one of them you don't. What's your feeling?
I feel I have conflict of interest on both because my front door
Okay.
and our whole house is on Heights Terrace. I
Okay.
don't know why our address is Riverview. So I probably should abstain to both of them. And I feel during town meeting, I'm gonna try to figure out how to make citizens comments, but as far as voting, I probably should, right? Not?
So Katie, you're the 17 Riverview.
Yeah, and so that our house is on Heights Terrace.
I know, but so the deed may read that so your address though, how do you receive your mail, Katie? That's not an
17
SMS.
Riverview, Maynard.
Yeah, that's why. So never mind, that is correct.
Yeah, I thought it was correct. I just
Oh,
looked over the maps too, and
thanks for the clarification. I got confused.
So technically the easements on Heights Terrace, but her mailing address is 17 Riverview.
Got it.
Right.
I mean, I feel like okay, I feel like I will move to recommend Article 6 and Article 7.
Full second.
All right, so we need to note who has made the motion and who has seconded. Kevin?
Yep. So I'll make the note that I made the motion. Let me get that down really quick. I have
Let me
full
stop.
screens open. I had all these Google Maps open, checking this thing out. So let me just make that note and then let me proceed and we can document that.
All right. We have had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I had two quick questions, I think, before I vote. My first was, if it's a bylaw that's preventing us from allocating the resources to pave unaccepted roads, why are we moving through this gradual process of accepting roads rather than doing a bylaw change?
Was not
We do
necessarily.
not have money.
Got it. And then I guess the other one is, if we're acquiring, it looked like on the one-way street, we would have to take by eminent domain part of like the property that's currently owned by the people on that street. Does that mean that they're going to lose any land from like paving a new road, or is any new construction only going to be on the existing road?
So no, we would repave the roadways as they currently lie, very similar to why we need the easement on Heights Terrace. So the actual asphalt would just be replaced with like asphalt. So we wouldn't necessarily be owning more or less, and it's not uncommon for the town of Maynard or most communities to own anywhere between a foot to 10 feet in somebody's front yard, vice versa. It depends on the location where you're at. And Nathan, just to kind of give you a little more context of why maybe the bylaw wasn't necessarily entertained, it's not necessarily a DPW decision, but I will tell you kind of what Kevin was concerned with is if you remove a bylaw, you then allow for any unaccepted road to kind of be a process that, you know, may be chosen to be repaved versus others. It kind of opens the door for ambiguity as opposed to a process of progression where they're accepted properly and they actually are town property, not just, hey, you're allowed to have unaccepted roads, but I want my road paved before your accepted road. It just kind of becomes a conversation of argument on town meeting floor.
Makes sense to me. Thank you.
All right. I will stop sharing so I can see. Is there any further discussions on Article 6 and Article 7? No? All right. So we will take a roll call vote on Article 6 and Article 7. The current to recommend is the current motion. Nathan?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Kevin? Katie?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Khadijah?
I apologize for my lateness. Yes.
All right. I am also a yes. So that is one abstain and the remainders are yes. You got that for the notes, Kevin?
Yes. I also noted that Katie disclosed the conflict of interest in case there's any question, anyone sees that you're a butter and we're like, she followed the process, she disclosed it.
Thank you, Kevin.
And you abstained. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the notes for the STM for the what's going to be printed, I'm gonna just write recommend or not recommend. That's what we've traditionally done. But it's totally great in the notes to, you know, put the number down of who voted where. Great. All right. So I am gonna share. You can see my words here. So generally, we write like a short sentence. So for Article 6, these are all drafts right now. This is just something I wrote to keep the ball rolling. So it addresses obtaining easements on Heights Terrace as part of the process of making unaccepted roads into accepted roads. These easements are required to be able to pave and otherwise manage these roads. Is there any other type of language for Article 6 that anyone feels is necessary? That is for the easement.
I would just note for Articles 6 and 7 that these roads are public roads and are used by residents throughout the town.
So I would propose to put that under number 7, which is talking about the roads rather than the easements.
Yep.
So I said that they are unaccepted roads are surveyed yearly for potential town acceptance following the pavement management plan by the DPW. Accepting them will add them to a Chapter 90 program. And these roads are often used by residents and would, what did you want to say?
I would say these roads are used by residents throughout the town and by public services.
Public, I think it's capital. You can all see how I know spell. Okay. All right.
For the second to last sentence, accepting these roads will add them to our Chapter 90 program. Can you just add like a little brief note about like what that is and what that means for the citizens of Maynard?
Oh, actually, aren't they already in the program, Justin? Is that
Yes,
sentence
I
wrong?
just didn't
Yeah.
want to interrupt you, Jillian.
Got
Yes, they are already accepted in the Chapter 90 program.
I will also note that we are currently receiving funding by the state to repair these roads, but are prohibited from doing so by local bylaws unless they are we are receiving funds from Chapter 90 to repair these roads, but are prohibited to do so unless they are by local by unless they are accepted.
They're not allowed to be. Something like that, improved.
Unaccepted roads are not allowed to be in, no, they're unallowed to be improved at all. Like we're not allowed to work on them at all. I think the point I want to get across is that we are accepting state funding with the to repair these roads. Like the spirit of the Chapter 90 funding is to maintain these roads, but our local bylaws are getting in the way of that. So
I
we're
think it's
taking
also
money.
reality too. So we only get like
Yeah.
a certain like pennies, like on the dollar, so to speak, for that. I think, Justin was talking about how we use a lot of the free cash sometimes also to supplement some of this too.
But I think it's I think we're following the wishes of the state in giving us this money, but by not repairing these roads, we're not fully aligned with the spirit of Chapter 90. Like we're receiving these funds based that, hey, we have the responsibility to repair these roads, but currently we do not. So you see the mismatch, like we're getting money in from the state that says like, oh, you have these roads and you're responsible for repairing them, but in fact we're not because we're prohibited from doing so by local bylaws.
I think we're prohibited by reality, but if you are given $1 to fill your gas tank, I don't know how that's going to happen. Unaccepted rules are allowed to be instituted in town bylaws. Like that. When I share, I can't really see if other people are trying to make any comments. Okay. So then I think the other article that has to do with this is article number 9, which is the Main Street acceptance and easement.
I will move to recommend Article 9.
All right, Kevin moves to recommend. Is there a second?
I will second Article 9.
All right, and Katie seconds. Is there any further discussion on this article? Hearing none, I will stop sharing because I can't see people. Let's take the roll call vote. Nathan?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Khadijah?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So that is a unanimous yes for article number 9. All right. And the writing to go along with that. So this article addresses obtaining an easement for new construction at 115 Main Street to allow public access to the river and create a connection between the rail trail and Main Street. I don't know how true that is. Does it have anything to do with the rail trail?
So the promenade actually connects the rail trail to the promenade. There's also a path being designed. So technically, there would be an interconnection between the bridge and Main Street through the promenade.
Am I correct in understanding that the article is actually, it is specifically the town granting the easement to 115 Main Street? And we already have an easement for the promenade?
Oh,
It's both at the same time?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're taking and we're giving.
Okay, so it addresses obtaining an easement for new construction, to the river promenade. Not even close. The town grant developer easement municipal parking lot, right?
Yes. I would just add in accordance with the overall special permit plan approval. That just understands, some people who may understand that process, understand why that went, why it ended up at this point.
Okay, does that seem like adequate wording? Main Street. Anything grossly wrong with those sentences, Justin?
No.
Okay,
So I would say the town will grant and obtain an easement. I think that's how the motion reads, but I haven't looked at the motion. That wasn't necessarily my article to review. I'm just aware of
yeah,
the process.
I'm stuck on this other one. Okay, I can,
I'm sure, so I
yeah,
know in the past, Jillian, whoever FinCom is assigned to each control and comments, and I don't know if you have changed that in your new role. But typically when we were assigned a FinCom member, they would write the comments and then they would typically have a conversation with the liaison or the person who created that article in control just to kind of fact check it. I'm assuming that would still go on, and if so, this is probably Bill Nemser, and he'll just confirm all those if you do assign Article 9 to one of
okay,
the members.
yep, I'll double check with him.
I'm
With the
rereading
committee
it, and
being so new.
Bill's everything is. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joe. I was just going to say that
No,
the way
please.
I just read it sounds right. Like it's in this case it doesn't. It says accept an easement, you obtain an easement. That's the same thing. And then in your second sentence, grant an easement. That's what it says as well. It
That's
grants.
what the motions. Yeah, it's both.
I think this it. Yeah, don't overthink it. I think this actually hits the nail on the head.
Okay. Yeah, with so many new members, I think for all of these articles, I'm like the liaison to everything, so. And I think they're due tomorrow or the day after, so.
Yeah, this
We're working on-
particular article came in so late, so it's no one's fault.
Okay, great, okay, so we have voted on Article 9 and recommended it. And we have written our comment. Are there any additional comments from the committee on this? I gotta stop sharing, 'cause I can't see anything. All right, okay, I am not hearing anything, so I think, thanks so much for coming, Justin.
You're welcome.
I think the only other question we had was, we saw that there was recently a trash survey that's gonna be sent out.
It went out today,
So I know, I saw that, that's exciting.
you
So
all fill it out, then every single
Not
one
yet.
fill it out. We need that feedback.
yeah, so, I wanted to mention it here to plug it. I know we don't have a lot of time tonight because we got to vote on all the other articles and write their recommendations. So maybe we'll invite you to a future meeting to talk about it more in depth, but just wanted to touch base and see when the current trash contract is up, like what those sort of timelines are and what your schedule
Technically-
might be like to meet with.
Technically, we're in our second year of a potential 3-year contract, and for those new to the role, it's in our contract is designed on fiscal calendar. So the select board just executed its second extension, so its second year term, July 1st. So we have this entire fiscal cycle, and the select board can choose to execute another term, which is the final term of the current contract next July. So we technically have a year and a half before our contract terms come to an end. But just for purposes of understanding as well, is solid waste is exempt from procurement process, so we could just literally write a new contract, same terms, and just keep piggybacking it if the town so choose. But the reason that there's a task force is to identify and provide a vetted and analyzed recommendation to the select board for future services and process.
Great. Thanks for that.
Mhm.
All right. I would say, in the interest of time, we'll probably move on to our next subject. So thank you for coming,
Right.
Justin. Appreciate it. Bye.
Good night.
Thanks, Justin.
All right. So I believe our next topic was with you, Greg, talking about the article, the FY24 transfers. Let me pull up the actual meeting notice. We also did have, so I did want to let you know, we did have on here to discuss the citizens petition, and we will obviously also be doing that. But the representative from their committee let me know that they are traveling currently and they're unable to make this meeting. So they're not going to be able to join us tonight. But we will still talk about the article. And that's also something, thanks for the emails back and forth, Greg, on that topic as well. So appreciate that. So we can start with either or. I think the FY24 amendments probably will be more straightforward. So I can bring that up maybe. So I think last time we talked, there were placeholder numbers here, and it looks like there's final numbers here. And that was, I just wanted to get clarity on that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, very good. So it's about $32,000 in the article itself, and this is to amend FY24, which is the current fiscal year we're in. $32,000 was the revenue that was identified as a result of the final state budget that was signed by the governor in August. And so this is kind of a tight turnaround. $27,000 or so I recommended to the select board, and the select board accepted this article to put towards, it says public safety because that's how we appropriate the budget, but it specifically goes towards salaries for the fire department, and specifically to help the budget for captain's overtime pay. So admittedly, there was an error in our accounting as we were inputting the appropriations, or our recommended appropriations, to go to town meeting in May of the annual town meeting in May to start the FY24 budget. And it was identified we didn't have enough money in that particular budget. So my recommendation is to put money into that to try to help. I wrote the sponsor comment, so I'm summarizing right now whatever I'm saying. So hopefully I'm not inaccurate whatever I'm saying to the sponsor comments.
I didn't know if you wanted me to scroll down. I can stay on the numbers if that's easier.
And I'm talking to the numbers, and then I wrote the sponsor comments to say what I'm saying in a better way, in like a more poetic, actual, like someone who actually has a policy degree.
I think that you talked in a great way.
I talk how I talk conversationally. I write a little better. Anyways, and then $5,000 I think was the other amount going towards the library. Speaking with the library director, it was identified that they were projected to be short on their hourly pay. So that $5,000, although it says in the appropriation goes to culture and recreation, that's the library. And so that $5,000 would go towards salaries. But there's another kind of a strange nuance to the recommended FY24 budget amendment, and that is to transfer money within the Department of Public Works, specifically $45,000 from highway to cemetery, if I have that right. And I identified that the way that's Justin, if he was still on, he would have explained that they're having a difficulty in hiring, and so they want to move $45,000 in the cemetery where they believe they can staff better and do cemetery and grounds and whatnot. That's those are the guys that are mowing the lawns, cutting the weeds back, all that, and he feels like that'd be a better staffing allocation. So, but that you wouldn't see in the appropriation within the article at the top there, because it's with the same budget function. So it looks, it's an even balance. But I did identify it in the omnibus, which is like the big budget at the back of the warrant, and you would just see $45,000 less from cemetery, $45,000 more. No, the inverse, excuse me, $45,000 less from highway, $45,000 more in cemetery, but it all shakes out even. So this is what you're looking at, is just the PDF of the spreadsheet.
This one, this 45.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's not very much. In years past, we've done significant amendments, but this 30, I was reluctant to sort of comb the budget very much because I have a very green town accountant. I feel like this will meet our needs.
Okay. Back up here.
You mentioned the accounting error, Greg. That happened when we were between finance directors. Was that?
Yeah, that's bearing generous. I didn't have a finance director for a last town meeting at all. So as we were finalizing the warrant, my finance director got snatched up by a better paying town. And so it is what it is. I mean, it's a $48 million budget. So yeah, it's in it, like the buck stops here with me, and so it's not the worst case scenario. It's just not great because, overtime is one of those funny things that you don't know exactly how much you're going to need until the fiscal year's almost through.
I mean, it's kind of fortuitous that you mentioned, well, unfortunate in one aspect, but fortuitous in another aspect, because this is dealing with salaries and our ability to hire, and the fact that other surrounding towns are scooping up employees from us, I think is kind of a relevant note to this article to kind of justify, like, hey, we gotta stay competitive with our pay.
I just want to say, it wasn't just pay why Lori left. She was moving, and so it was more convenient on her commute to go to, I don't remember the town. It was a bigger town either way. So like they were going to pay her more than I was. Yeah.
Okay. I'm all set. I'm satisfied with my questions.
Any particular reason why the library gets like a nice round 5,000 and then the public safety gets another number?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. So I generally round anyways. I mean, so when it comes to salaries and fluctuations, whether it be from overtime or whatever the case, it's easier for accounting purposes if you just do zeros. But in this case, the $5,000, I believe, was what the request I got from the library director in the first place. So I didn't.
That's meeting that request, and then everything else goes to.
Correct.
All right, great. Are there any further discussions on article number 5? Hard for me to see the committee. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion on article number 5?
I will move to vote on Article 5.
You have to move. How are you moving the vote?
I'm sorry. I move to recommend Article 5.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
So Kevin moves to recommend. Is there a second?
And I will second to approve Article 5.
All right, so that is Katie seconding to recommend article number 5. So I will take, is there any further discussion before I take a roll call vote? Hearing none, I will start the roll call vote with Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah,
Yes.
Katie.
Yes.
I am also a yes. So that is the full committee recommends.
Was unanimous. Katie, you seconded, right? I was actually bringing my notes up as I said, and I think I
I did,
recognized
yeah.
your voice. Okay.
You got it.
All right, great. I think, let's see, what else do we got here? Other related articles potentially. So I think the collector demand fees, I'm kind of jumping around a little. I guess if we want to technically follow the agenda, the next article would be the citizens petition.
Um, So Katie, I'm anticipating a rather detailed discussion on the citizens petition. Particularly on what we do with the recommendation. Maybe we want to save that to the end, so we're a little bit time bound, so that way we get all of the low hanging fruit recommendations knocked out, and then possibly leave the long involved one for the very end, so that way we don't. I recommend we save that one for last. I know it's out of order, but that way we don't like get till 10 p.m. and realize that, oh, hey, like we have all this other stuff we have to vote on.
All right, I recommend we
Um,
talk about the collector's fees then.
Can
Unless we have a
can I
strong
ask,
opinion.
we have 3 people, Natasha Rivera, I wonder if we want to take the school issue next, and then Amy Lovelace and Marianne Shields, I think might speak on the seniors, the citizens petition.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, I was hoping to help get the articles Greg might have any input on, so that would be potentially
Okay,
number 8,
yeah.
I think. And I think that's it, right, Greg? I mean, you have input on everything. You're super important. We appreciate you.
I'm totally important. But can you, which one? You're talking about the collector fees? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Which, by the way, I think we saw. I think Dick Downey wanted a D-swapped. So I think when you see the warrant, I think it's going to be.
A different number.
Yeah, I think he wanted to. I think he decided to put the. I call it the promenade easements. I think he wants to have that 8, and then the collector fees 9. Anywho, the collector fees. I actually was. It was one of the handful of select board meetings I've ever missed, and it was the treasurer collector, Jen Welch, proposed to the select board to accept this article, which they did, to increase the collector fees, which are reportedly haven't been changed in more than 25 years. So the treasurer collector has a significant amount of authority when it comes to how to collect the fees, particularly the tax payments. So we don't like late payments. It does happen. The treasurer collector's office does try to work with residents in particular when it comes to the submission of payments and their ability to pay. However, over the course of 25 years, the cost of business, if you will, the administration side of the house, that does go up like any business would. And so she recommended an increase to $20. So from $5 to $20.
And I've had some back and forth emails, which I have circulated to the committee.
Oh,
so it's my understanding that this fee is sort of in line with the recommendations from the state to cover administrative costs. And I think I circulated that that document to you all where it outlines what the recommended fees are. And that this article would bring it in to that amount of money. So
I would move to recommend Article 8.
all right, there's been a motion to recommend Article 8. Is there a second?
I will second to recommend Article 8.
All right, Katie has seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. Nathan, Sorry, you're muted.
Oh, I'm a no.
A no. Okay. Linda,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah,
Yes.
Katie.
Yes.
I am a yes, so that is one no and other yeses. So the overall recommends vote does carry. All right, so I just wrote here that it updates the fee. This fee will bring it in line with recommendations from the state and cover increasing administrative costs associated with late revenue collection. This fee has not been increased in a long time, but that was in the sponsor's comments, I think. Yeah, unchanged for more than 25 years. Is there any additional comments or wordings that the committee would like to make to the printed warrant recommendation reasons? Or if you
I think
feel
that's
very
great.
strongly against, I can also write down, in the past, if we've had a member feel strongly one way or the other, we can also say it was a contested vote and write both reasons.
This is not something that I feel strongly about.
Okay. Was there any further comments on the article? Writing. I'm having trouble with Zoom today. I am not seeing any takers.
No, it
All
sounds
right.
good to me, Jillian.
Great. Okay, so we have Article 1, 2, and 4 remaining. All right, so I think the zoning bylaw one might be one that we could also move with relative expedience. And I don't,
I would, I would move to recommend Article 1.
all right, so there is a motion to move Article 1 from Kevin.
Recommend Article 1, sorry, yeah, move to recommend Article 1.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so Nathan seconded that one. I have to stop sharing to take roll call votes. I can't see anyone. So I'm going to take roll call vote. Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah,
Yes.
Katie.
Yes.
I am also a yes. So that is a unanimous recommend. So this is recommends. So this will allow the zoning bylaw to be amended to allow indoor kennels in the neighborhood business overlay by special permit. So this is a process that requires a public hearing before approval. This could potentially bring in commercial businesses to support Maynard residents.
I think that's perfect.
Okay,
I agree.
all right, great. Okay, so the remainder articles are for the HVAC, so the tool school articles. So we did vote last time on the Green Meadow Elementary School to recommend. That's article number 3. We did not yet approve the wording of that article. And this is actually something I was hoping to get Natasha and Greg's input on. And we also haven't yet voted on the HVAC system. So I think maybe we should discuss the HVAC and we'll move that forward first, and then write the comments for both at the same time. I've sort of written some extensive comments for article number 3, but I just want to make sure the math looks okay. So if you had a couple more minutes to stay, Greg, I would appreciate it.
I
Thanks.
do have some additions to the recommendations on Article 3.
Perfect.
Uh,
All right,
so-
let's, maybe we'll do do you want to do, I think maybe if we vote to, discuss on Article number 2 first, since we haven't made a recommendation or not on that one yet.
Okay.
Zoom is making me crazy today. Okay, so Article number 2 is specifically on the HVAC system for Fowler. So this will be taking $250,000 out of, I always mix it up.
Capital
Out of the
stabilization.
capital, thank you. Capital stabilization funds. So that would leave approximately 158,000 in the capital stabilization fund for other capital needs if this transfer occurs. So thanks, Greg, for helping me figure out what those numbers are. I would like to open the floor to any discussions and or motions.
Jillian, I just wanted to, I realized that you had asked a question and I wanted to circle back on that in email, just to clarify. So
Yeah,
you,
I did actually talk to the capital planning committee.
okay, good. Because I
Yeah.
actually, John Larkin has been working with the school. I don't think maybe this year, but he was at a town budget subcommittee when we talked about this, and I've kept him looped in with the article. I think he's been really trying to, I guess, monitor those larger anticipated HVAC in particular expenses. And I believe last year they had a pretty in-depth conversation about some of them. So I don't know if that is helpful, just to bring up an awareness. And I think the other part of that, your question was about the life expectancy.
Yeah.
And so and I'm gonna guess paraphrase the facilities director. So he's an HVAC certified. We're lucky to have that that specific specialty in his role. And he said a lot of times what happens is if this were another I guess brand or like Carrier or Trane, which are more popular now, we may have done some repairs, been able to do some repairs, but because the parts on this particular one was, no longer at the time, 23 years ago, it was deemed, the most high-tech technology, are just not able to, it requires a whole replacement. So I don't know if that helps at all in understanding the difference between.
Yeah. The question I was asking was sort of around, it sounded like based on the draft of articles I read last time, is that the lifespan is about 20 years and this one was 23 years old. So I was just sort of wondering, so I talked to the capital committee to understand like if it was on the capital replacement list. And from my understanding, it sounded like it was something that they were aware of and it was on a list somewhere. But I don't recall exactly where on that list it was. So
I'm going to say it was pretty relatively new. And I think John has really just recently, I say recent, but maybe in the past 2 years, started cataloging, to get into the meat of some of these, potential things that are coming on the horizon. I mean, but I think that's where it was on a list, as far as planning or scheduling it. I don't think it'd gotten that far into when it was anticipated to be replaced.
I think someone raised their hand, but I'm having trouble with Zoom
Linda.
today.
I had one question. Here it looks like we're replacing one of the units. And then it says all the units seem to be 20 years old. So how many units are there? And is this going to be enough funding? Is it just one and there's many there? I don't know.
So the one unit that needs replacement is the approximate 213,000. They do biannual inspections. Through that inspection process, they were able to identify in a different unit that is still able to be repaired, which is approximately 37,000 for that. At this time, it did not seem like there were anything substantial, but I mean, the way the weather's been, I mean, it was a discussion point I had with the superintendent when, you know, when he was deciding on closing early, just the demand on, you know, the units to run have been pretty extraordinary as well over COVID. The, you know, the equipment had to run even during the winter to ventilate, which is, you know, again, probably outside of its intended use when it was first, you know, implemented. So I think that is a concern, is that the demands that we've imposed on it are, you know, by nature of circumstances are testing it's, so could that accelerate? Possibly, it's a concern. But the facilities director is coming up, I guess, with a plan or a scheduled plan that we hope to be able to work towards in some way. I don't know if it will entail, you know, if something needs to be replaced. I mean, I don't, $200,000 is, yeah, I don't know where we would get that if another unit is that same, that needs to be replaced. But a lot of the areas in the school have window units as well. This is a particular part of the school, the auditorium, that's a larger space. And it supports more, less classrooms and more auditorium and nursing stations and stuff. It's always a risk.
So my thought on the matter is that this is a must fix item on 2 counts. One, Maynard is under the legal obligation to provide its minor residents a safe and accessible education. And we already seen that the system under extreme weather event cannot deliver a safe and accessible education under just a hot summer day, which we just experienced. So I think there's going to be further obligations going forward. They're also projecting that there's an increased likelihood of extreme weather events during the winter time due to El Nino. So that's case number 1 for why this is a must-fix item. The second reason this is a must-fix item is that this is the go-to location for town meeting. And I think we all remember during COVID when this location was no longer accessible, how we were all scrambling to put together an alternative location. So I do not believe that Maynardtown residents would vote this article down to sit in a hot, sweltering auditorium during town meeting, and May is probably going to be hot. So, and in addition, this is also an emergency shelter. So if is an extreme weather event, let's say like it's a hot summer day and the power goes out, this is the shelter for our senior residents to avoid overheating. And without the AC out, there's not a lot of cool islands for our seniors to shelter in the event of a hot summer day and a power outage. So I think it's the legal obligation to provide our students a safe and accessible education. It's the legal obligation to provide a safe and accessible town meeting, and it's the public safety obligation we owe to all of our residents, but especially our seniors on a hot summer day.
And just, can I add something that was brought up at the last finance committee meeting about urgency? And so we did take that feedback to the, you know, anticipating, you know, funding and how we should proceed. And the superintendent was able to get information that the nexus between if we were to do something emergent right now versus waiting to town meeting wouldn't have made a substantial difference in being able to get the repairs done, because the equipment can take up to 6 months potentially to come in. So we're talking about, you know, going through winter, which again is a risk in some areas. And then we're looking at the spring for, you know, for that repair possibly if it takes 6 months. So
That is,
so we may
that's
have
a
a
little-
sweltering springtime meeting, who knows?
I mean, that is a little bit concerning, Tasha. I'm really nervous because I'm seeing already talk of a polar vortex, and I remember 2014. That was brutally cold, and
Yeah.
if we
Well,
don't have an H,
yeah, so the student occupied areas are, I think, are not immediately concerning. It would be more of like the nurses and some other smaller educational spaces. The auditorium is the question that we asked the director of facilities was about, pipes freezing and that kind of thing if there was not adequate heating. And we've been told that that doesn't seem to be a concern in this particular space, because we do know that we've had pipes freeze, last year. So that is a reality. You get these incredible. So, but I mean, obviously no one can predict the future. So we're all just going to do our best effort to, we know our limitations and where, where the concerns are. And the same could be said about Green Meadow, other schools, they have lack of heat in certain areas as well.
I just feel like we are exposed here to numerous risks that we need to come together as a town and remediate as quickly as possible.
I think in hindsight, in May or when this came up, maybe we would have thought differently had we had, more information and understanding of the time frame to get the stuff in and all that. But hindsight's 2020. So
I mean, yeah, it's water on the bridge. I mean, we just have to play the hand that we have, and you know,
and I
you
appreciate,
guys are all.
Greg's work. Thank you, Greg, for providing the information and just kind of supporting the process. I know Brian isn't, as informed on warrants and articles and all that. So thanks for helping him through that.
All right. We've gotten updated information on this article. We've done some discussion. Are there further questions or?
I'll give it 30 seconds and then I'll make a motion. Okay, I move to recommend, what's the article number?
Number 2.
Number 2. I
That's what
move to
we-
recommend Article 2.
Kevin, I didn't know what article number it was, so I held back too, but I will second the motion to recommend Article 2.
Okay, so Kevin has recommended and Katie has seconded article number 2 to recommend. Is there any further discussion on this article? Hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. Nathan?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Khadijah?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
I am also a yes. So that is a unanimous recommendation.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So basically I wrote this article. Can you hear the art? Can you see it okay? Okay. This article is to address emergency repairs in the HVAC system at Maynard Public School. I guess that's a little redundant. At Fowler School auditorium. This unit supplies heating and cooling, has reached the end of its life and cannot be repaired. It is recommended to be replaced using capital stabilization funds. If this article passes, it would deplete that amount of money as in the article, leaving approximately $158,000 for other capital needs.
So my thought on this recommendation is we need to make this recommendation as strong as possible because it takes 2/3 vote to approve the use of stabilization funds. So we need like almost all hands on deck from town meeting for this motion to go through. I think we need to strengthen the language, pretty much say what I say, this item, the finance committee believes this item is a must fix item that otherwise exposes us to three critical risks. One, the risk for education, the liabilities we have for education, the liabilities for town meeting, and the liabilities for emergency shelter for our senior citizens.
Okay.
I mean, I could, if you want, Kate, I could start typing this up, or do you want me to dictate and you record?
Well, let's see. I have Linda raising her hand too.
I had a quick question. How do we replenish capital stabilization funds? Is that part of the annual town budget that we vote funds into that?
That is my recollection. Is that correct, Greg?
Yes. So, in my tenure, it's always been through free cash. So we allocate free cash according to, we have some guidance from a financial policies. However, free cash varies so much every year. It's very subjective each year. So generally we put a certain amount of money into general stabilization, a certain amount of money into capital stabilization, a certain amount of money into our OPEB, which is other than post-employment benefits. It's like healthcare for retirees. And then after that, for the most part, it's various capital projects. So it might be 25, maybe it's $50,000, like year by year, it might be different, but it's from free cash into that.
All right. Did that answer your question, Linda?
So when do we know free cash for now? We've done that for FY23. Now we're in FY24. When will we know free cash? Not till the end of the year?
No, we usually know it November or December. This year, I suspect it'll probably be a little bit later because we're going to be a little late with my new town accountant trying to get his feet under him. But that we get our free cash number after we've submitted our books to the Department of Revenue, and then it's however long it takes for them to get back to us. So it might be December, which really kind of puts a tight squeeze on like the capital planning committee to make recommendations how to use it. But yeah.
Okay. I saw some other hands raised too, but feel free to jump in. When I'm full screen, it's a little wacky.
So I have a quick question about school renovation funds. Does the capital planning committee set aside a certain amount every year for things like, I don't know, roof replacement or projects like this every year? Is there a certain amount set aside for schools? Or is it just when as needed comes from capital stabilization?
So this is a significant I mean, this is a lot of this is $250,000. So individual departments, in this case the schools, does have maintenance budget. So they do sort of like minor, but not to the degree of replacing a roof, not obviously to this amount of to do this significant amount of like replacement, which again is a reflection more of end of life rather than just lack of maintenance. So but it's been something I believe has been, as I think Natasha was referring to, that the capital planning committee is sensitive to, in particular about the age of Fowler School or any other sort of like major system that is coming to its end of life. The state is also had been appreciative or supportive of school districts in trying to replace these major aspects of their facilities, roofs, HVAC, etc. But roofs in particular, the state used to have a accelerated roof repair program.
Right.
But in this last fiscal year, they're not funding it. So they might go back to funding it, in which case school districts would apply just like any other sort of large state program, this time to the MSBA, the State School Building Authority. And then but either way, in this case, my understanding is that the capital planning committee is aware of the age of these facilities, the roofs in particular. And I've been really impressed with the capital planning committee's job to sort of like make sure they keep a track of where these are, but they get fed the information from the departments. So if a department says this year I really need money for A, B, or C, then the capital planning committee will try to address that according to the limited resources that they're provided, which mostly comes through me because I'll say, oh, there's so much in a general fund we can put towards capital, or there's so much free cash I'm recommending towards capital, whatever. And then they try to evaluate and sort of adjust it as best they can. So I think it's a great question for the capital planning committee as to what might be next on their list. Presumably they don't expect to put very much back towards Green Meadow. So maybe it's going to be all Fowler. I mean, the high school, I can't speak to the high school. I'm sure has something that might need to be addressed, but I don't know.
So does the capital planning committee though say out of, let's say, $1 million every year, they put aside 500,000 for schools and maybe 500,000 for DPW? Because I'm thinking, well, you've always got, any town has competing needs between the roads and the bridges and the schools.
Yep. I don't believe the capital planning gets that prescriptive. So
Okay.
unfortunately, we don't have that much resources. And so the capital planning committee doesn't really have the luxury, unfortunately, to be able to say like, okay, this much money we're going to put aside for this and that, etc. That might be something they strive for. And I also know that they do when they deliberate amongst themselves according to how they're going to figure out how they recommend allocation of money, they sort of assign value to it. So public safety might come first over facilities, etc. But whatever their evaluation criteria is. But unfortunately, no, I don't believe that they say, okay, we're expecting X amount of money towards this department. I think it's very much circumstantial to each fiscal year and the capital requests that they get that fiscal year, which should be rolling in the next month or two. And then I'd quickly look at them, make sure they're not anything crazy or just done incorrectly. And then I just forward all the capital requests to the capital planning committee. And then they sort of chew on them, meet on site or meet with department heads, whatever the case. And then they give me a capital improvement plan at the end of December.
Thank you. That's good.
Deja, can I just, sorry. I just wanted to add that we, the schools before COVID, we had, we did a lot of summer rentals on space. And so we would be able to get some of that rental and put it into an account that we had, a revolving that would be used for facilities. It hasn't been replenished to that extent as much as we had because some of those programs are no longer coming for renting the space as much. So that's also been one of the hindrances, is that we did have another fund that was being replenished pretty often. But there are, say, lower hanging fruit maintenance that do come in. So we do have certain smaller HVAC things that are being taken care of. As Greg mentioned, there is budgetary things, this large amount. And I think, and I don't know the exact detail, but I think even if there's a capital project I think it's maybe $150,000. I don't even think that the school department is allowed to look at our own budget to fund that. I think there's DESE financial laws about dollar amounts and what the school budgets can even look at for a larger project.
All right. And I did reach out to the capital committee. The last time I heard they're I think in between chairs right now. So yeah, that's still true. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So I think, once that's sorted out, maybe that would be something good to have them come talk to us about. Every year, I think, like you were saying, Greg, they make sort of a list of recommendations. They submit it directly to you. I forget.
Yeah, no, to me. So the charter says that they submit it to me by December 31st or January 1st or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So in our normal meeting process, we've had them come in the past, and it's been quite helpful to have talks with them. So maybe we can do that again later this year. All right. Are there any more recommendations the way this is written? Yes. Okay.
For that sentence, it is recommended to be replaced using capital stabilization funds. I think it would be more informative and more strongly worded to say that Maynard has budgeted a capital stabilization fund for exactly this type of emergency repair.
Is there a definition for what stabilization funds are, Greg, that I could use maybe?
Definition for what they are.
Like they're for emergency purposes, right?
I wouldn't. I don't know if that's like the
I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't say what the actual legal definition is off the top of my head. Like they're not part of the general fund. They're not part of like operating budget. They're a form of reserves, I would say. It's just not the reserve fund, so that might be confusing.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I didn't want to put in another word there.
Department
Okay.
of Revenue probably has, I mean, like they have a definition of all their funds, like type of funds and what they should
Yeah.
be used for. So I'm sure that they can define that pretty.
It's probably defined in our financial policies. If you give me
Yeah.
talk amongst yourselves and give me
I was looking at the
There's-
same thing. I was like, I know it's somewhere. It's just
There's guidelines on how a stabilization fund should be used. There's not a legal requirement other than the 2/3 approval of town meeting vote for the stabilization fund. So the guideline is that the stabilization funds is order to provide for emergencies and unforeseen expenses. Based upon that definition, this would certainly qualify because, who could have foreseen that this system would fail at the time it did? Or emergencies, which also we are very clearly under because of the use of this as a town shelter.
I'm trying to be consistent with the wording in the article. I think repaired is the word.
So instead of using the passive voice, who is recommending that this be repaired using stabilization funds? Is that town administrator? Is that FinCom? Who's making this recommendation?
We did. We just voted.
Yeah, so I mean, we voted to recommend the HVAC, but who's recommending the funding source? FinCom recommends.
Select board?
I think, would it be, who's made, Greg, who made the recommendation that this be funded with stabilization funds?
Yeah, hold on, I'm looking it up. I don't
All right.
remember if it was the select board or school committee.
so we sponsored the article
Yeah,
and with the recommendation, this is where we had to remember that verbiage that seemed very confusing for last time, Jillian. It was
Yeah.
honestly, the school committee doesn't care where the funding source is, but I think that was confusing as it read. And so Greg, you seem pretty, preferable that it's capital stabilization. So we adopted Greg's recommendation, and that's what we alluded to in our sponsor comments. That was what was
Yeah.
recommended.
Yeah.
Does that
So-
is that right? Is that sound support? Like, I just want to make sure we're not all, but it's our article, we're sponsoring it. Kevin.
and it was accepted by the select board. So it's like
Right.
it's officially the school committee recommends that because they wrote the article.
Right. But it wasn't, it's a collaborative effort to,
You concur with that recommendation, correct, Greg?
Yeah, it was my idea. That's what.
It was your idea.
He
Okay.
informed the recommendation.
Yeah.
So we're all
Yeah.
in agreement. So I would say, I would even say, town administrator, select board, school committee, and FinCom all recommend the use of capital stabilization as
it.
the fund. So we could show town meeting voters that we are all aligned on where the money is going to be coming from.
And that was the intent, is to make sure that we're more aligned than not.
Yeah. So I would even say maybe we could maybe we just do the list, town administrator, the executive branch, school committee, and FinCom all recommend that the funding source be capital stabilization funds.
Okay, I put the town stakeholders recommend.
Everyone's a stakeholder.
Recommend.
Maybe town policy developers, policy proposers. I don't know. I actually that's kind of confusing because town meeting, I usually expect people who have never been to a town meeting show up before. So
Yeah.
maybe be as specific as
Okay.
Kevin was saying. Town administrator, select board, school committee, finance committee. And capital planning committee, if you got that endorsement, which I doubt you did, because I don't think they're
No.
meeting this week.
I mean, there's no official head, so
Yeah.
I was just talking to some of the members.
And technically Capcom falls under the select board. They're right,
Yeah.
right. Capcom is a appointed.
Yeah, by
is
the
appointed body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're not meeting. I think they're meeting Wednesday, just offhand.
But yeah, everyone's aligned in how this will go down. I just want to, the only thing that has me concerned is the 2/3 vote. But in my mind, this is an absolute must pass.
And I think Dick Downey wanted the order in this, thinking that people were showing up for the next article, and so people will show up because they want the new school. That they might be in favor of the article before it.
Well, I think also it's just a matter of demonstrating that we're, doing our best to maintain,
Yeah, I mean,
as
that's.
much as we can.
I mean, there is this prevailing rumor that you just said that we don't maintain it, but I haven't seen that, and I don't think this is. Nothing here strikes me that you've been neglecting this HVAC system. And also what you said about COVID and the extreme heat events, I mean, that also jives as well, that the usage of this device, I mean, how you said this was 20 years old, so this was like 2000 it was put in.
23. Yeah, it's the original from Fowler when they opened. So
Yeah, so this is the original from Fowler. Who could have expected, we'd have 100-degree weather in September. Who could have expected that we'd have COVID and be running these almost 24/7 for almost 3 years. I mean, that nobody really predicted that. I mean, it was 100 years since we had the last respiratory plague. So yeah,
you're
I
going
think
deep.
yeah, well, I don't think there's any substance to that rumor.
Okay, so back to the wording in hand. Are the committee members comfortable with this wording for our printed warrant recommendations?
I would. Oh, go ahead, Nathan. I'm sorry.
Just the grammatical thing, and from moving the sentence around a few times, it should read select board recommend using capital stabilization funds for this expense. Cool.
Thanks. I don't English good, and I often switch tenses, as you can see. So
maybe I'm coming too strong, but I think we should say without an HVAC system, our town is exposed to legal and public safety risks that need to be remediated as soon as possible.
no, shouldn't put that in right. That's
All
my opinion.
Yeah, we don't know when
someone
the
who does
equipment's gonna
contracts
come
all
in.
the time.
Yeah, we
I
don't know
don't
when
think
like
it's a good idea.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if this is voted down, we will have to find another way to fund this. So this will not be funded. I don't know how to be English today. It's getting late. So it's going to be funded somehow.
Reserve fund. We'll see you soon. Just
Yeah,
Okay.
but then we won't have anything left. I mean, then we'll really have to deficit spend. Um, if they don't pass it, then we have to do a reserve fund, and then something else, God forbid, something else happens, then we'll have to really deficit. Then we'll really be backed in the corner.
All right. Okay. Is there any additional discussion on article number 2, or can we move to our article number 3 written comments? Okay, I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah.
So we voted at our last meeting to recommend this article. So this is for the building of the Green Meadow Elementary School. And I sort of wrote in here, you know, the cost of the current building renovation is expected to be 40 million. The new one is approximately 54. And then I sort of go into it more in this sentence here. So I think my main question to Natasha and Greg is it typical? We usually don't write such detailed comments, but I feel like this is a pretty detailed article. I don't want people necessarily to get hung up on the cost between the two options, but I wanted to emphasize that voting this article, no, like you still have to renovate the school. Like we can't not spend money is my understanding.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of I think how you put it here is the nexus between the 54 or the 40. You know, you have down there the cost, right, per 1,000. So that translates, I think, to that point, right? How the individual or household impact would be between the two.
Sorry, I had a little blip in my internet. That's why I don't have the camera on today. So I missed that
No,
sentence.
I would say you have in that bottom section, that's where you attempt to delineate like what the impact is for renovating option versus new build, right? And that's what that is getting at. So I think that gets to that point is that
Okay. And do these numbers look correct? I'm pretty sure, Greg, that I took these from the email.
the 40
They-
million was updated. That's the updated number for the
Yeah, that's the updated number.
yeah.
And then you made the nice breakdown for us, like a spreadsheet. I can pull that up too, somewhere.
I don't remember what the numbers, what the email. I mean, I just forward it from our bond counsel who gets it from, treasurer collector who gets it from bond counsel. So I couldn't speak to those numbers.
Okay.
So after speaking with the Green Meadow Building Committee as the liaison, and talking to some of its members about the financial aspects of this, I actually went and did my own discounted cash flow model of building new versus the repair. And it turns out that building a new building, just from a purely financial standpoint, the new building option puts our town in a better financial position than repairing Green Meadow. The reason for that is the first reason for that is the lifetime. So if we renovate Green Meadow, the best projection we have is this renovation will last about 25 years, and then we'll have to do another major renovation of comparable cost. So 25 years is the lifetime of the at face value, the quote unquote cheaper option of renovating. That gets you 25 years of life. While the building new, the best projection I got out of the Green Meadow Building Committee was that's about 50 years of life. So applying just the discounted cash flow of, long-term, just continually renovating out to infinity, or continually building new out to infinity, renovating out to infinity every 25 years versus building new out to infinity every 50 years, that brings it into the ballpark of cost. But it turns out that if you operationalize this in terms of operational cost savings, you only need a little bit over $100,000 a year operational cost savings to make the two options equivalent. And based on what I've seen with the geothermal, with the water efficiency, the operational cost savings from the new building are well in excess of $100,000 a year. So I feel very confident saying, just from a purely financial standpoint, like, let's not even consider the educational benefits, which are numerous, but let's just look at it from a purely financial standpoint. The new building puts our town into a better financial position. And I think we need to include that in our recommendation, that from a pure, that, you know, financially, new building is the way to go.
All right. So I don't think I had anything in here about the lifetime. So what I'm hearing from you is that this adding in the lifetime you feel is important.
Yeah. I think we need
And-
to put it that I think the recommendation is this, that FinCom believes that the new building is a prudent financial investment that will put our town in a better position financially than trying to attempt to renovate the Green Meadow School.
um, I'm trying to be concise, but also
I would just put financial benefit, purely financial benefits.
I think it's also important to
Uh,
factor in the other benefits as well to the kids. And
I mean, the other benefits are well, but there are people in town that don't have children, that
I
if
don't
they
have
just,
children,
yeah,
so
yeah, I know, but I mean, let's just assume like the least development resident, because we need to get 2/3 on this. We need to get 2/3 in order for this article to pass. So let's just assume just pure financial self-interest. And this is my point. Just if you look at this purely by financial self-interest, you should be for a new building, just out of pure financial self-interest. Like the new building very strongly puts our town in a better financial position than renovating the school because of the operational cost savings, because of the lifetime. My fear is that people are going to look at this and say, like, okay, 40 million for renovating, 54 million for building new, you know, I'm getting priced out of town, you know, I have no choice but to go with the cheaper option. That some residents we have are in that position, that they are being priced out of town, and they're going to look at the sticker price and they're going to say, oh, that's the cheaper option, let's just go for that. When in fact, when you factor in the lifetime and you factor in the operational cost savings, financially, it's cheaper to build a new school.
okay. So I see Linda has patiently been waiting to say something.
I had a question about the numbers. So I'm looking at this brochure that the
Yeah.
building committee put out. And so, and I think right in the first paragraph in the warrant article says the town is voting 83.6 million.
Yes.
So I wonder if we should, instead of the 54, because then we say later that we probably will get the MSBA, but and then here in this, it's saying the cost of renovation is, where is it? It was 34
Yep.
million. So that's a huge difference. That's like a 20% difference. So where did that come from? That's way
Yeah,
off.
So I sent an email, I think, around to the committee about that, but I see Natasha, you have your hand raised too. That's an updated number based on new construction costs since that's been printed.
Okay,
I think the
this-
cost of
this-
modular classrooms has gone up, and that was part of what the renovation would require is getting
Okay.
modulars. Because you won't have a place, the kids were not gonna have a building in, so you'd have to get modulars. So I believe that's what that additional cost was attributed to as well. Does that sound right, Greg? I see you nodding, but I believe that's what I heard the conversation
That's
was.
what they said. Yep.
Yeah, the cost of modular classrooms has gone up because there's a lot of building.
Then how about the 83 million? Did that go up if the construction costs went up?
The
How come
83
that didn't go
million
up?
is because with a new building, the kids are going to still be in the current school. You're not going to need modular classrooms. You're going to be in the current Green Meadow while the new construction is being built. You only need modular classrooms if you're renovating the existing, because then you're going to have to close off all or part of the current
Okay.
building at different phases to accommodate that. So it's an interruption based on whatever aspect of renovations happening at that scheduled time.
So the 6 million was just the increase in the cost of modulars. I mean, that's a
That's
big,
what, yeah,
yeah, that's a big increase, yeah.
that's what I understood it was attributed to.
Yep. That's what we were told. I'm on the building committee. That's what we were told.
Oh, yeah, there you go. And just to also add, Jillian, I think you referred to this, and I know I would say I agree that there should not be a honing in on only the purely financial aspect. I know that's easy to do because that is where some people's belief are, but the educational piece, I think the FinCom does have a responsibility to look beyond just the financial aspects of what this would bring. So I don't want to pander to the people who are only looking at the dollar amount without really making sure that there's reference to the other educational aspects, that bringing it up to ADA compliant or having a place that's ADA compliant fully, that's savings, and we if you want to look at dollars, but we'll have HVAC and then in a new, we won't have that with a renovation. We'll still be no AC. And then the spacing, the specs that DESE has for appropriate spacing for classes has changed over the decades, and that won't be realized in a renovation.
Jillian, is there a way I could get you exact wording? Like, can I send you, is there a chat window that I can send you? I don't see that.
No chat, no, it's been disabled on public Zoom. You would have
Should
to
I send-
email it to me.
All right, I'll email the exact wording I want to add in.
Yeah, but I would say let's approve the wording now so that we're all in agreement about it.
Oh, yeah.
So
I just want this displayed so Jillian can see it.
And Kevin, would you be putting it like the last sentence of the first paragraph, like it's FinCom's opinion that building a new school has numerous benefits and warrant the cost to town payers, such as blah, blah, blah. Like, is that where it would probably go?
So I just sent you the exact wording.
All right, my internet is slow. Which is why my camera's not on.
And if you could copy and paste it in the document, or I could read it and
I got
hope it comes across, but yeah.
no. Oops. This is your words. That's the sentence I saw right here.
If
This one I pasted in.
The proposal by the Green Meadow Building Committee is a financially prudent capital investment with a net positive return on investment from operational cost savings. That is precisely what I want to convey. And how we work that in so it flows nicely. I mean, I'm very flexible, but that is the distilled exact message I want to send to town meeting voters.
I see Linda's hands raised.
I was just wondering, Kevin, where did you get operational? You did your own estimate of operations, but the school building committee did not talk about any differences in operating costs of the two buildings, did they?
We got
So-
mailed. Go ahead.
So, okay, so yeah, the basis for that is I did the discounted cash flow model for the numbers that we have in the recommendation already, the 40,000 and the 54, 40,000 for the repair, 54,000 for the new school. So when you do the net present valuation, let me just give me a sec, I'm flipping through multiple. When you do just the straightforward net present valuation of that, the repair option comes out to roughly 57 million net present value. The new building option comes out to 59 million net present value. This is, going out to infinity, building a new school every 50 years versus renovating Green Meadow every 25 years at those costs that are listed. When
But that's your
you
capital cost, but how about you said operating costs?
Yes.
Yeah.
The operational costs. So the operational costs come from two aspects. The energy savings from the geothermal, and the savings from relieving the demand pressure on our water supply. To make those two equivalent, so the threshold that makes the new versus renovate equivalent is $100,000 a year. So if we achieve a little bit over $100,000 a year in operational cost savings, then the two proposals would be financially equivalent from a net present value perspective. Based on what I've seen with the geothermal perspective and based upon what I've seen with the water savings, we are well in excess of $100,000 a year operational cost savings with the new building.
Yeah, I would recommend we strike that sentence because I haven't seen the model.
Yeah.
But that's me personally. I can understand what you're doing, but in the building committee, I mean, I asked them about operating costs and they really, they talked about all the new equipment. They're going to have training, specialized technicians. I just don't know. I don't really feel comfortable that we know what the operating costs difference are going to be from the new buildings. I think the capital costs and all the other arguments, I think, are very strong.
I attended a meeting where they presented, the architects presented the building, and there are definitely operational savings from an older building to a new building. I don't know if I'd want to go on a limb and say exactly how much, but they're definitely operational savings from water, as Kevin has said, as well as heating and air conditioning because of the upgrade of the systems. So I wouldn't put it in writing. And the meeting I went to, they did have something on a chart that said what the savings would be, but I don't know if we want to put that out. And I'm wondering,
the meeting I attended, they were very uncertain about the maintenance costs of geothermal, the training and technicians for all of the systems. I didn't feel confident that, there were going to be energy savings.
oh yeah, the building has to, in order to qualify for MSBA funding, they have to go through certain rigorous demonstrations that there will be energy savings.
The lead
So-
certifications.
Yes, LEED, that's part of the LEED in the MSBA requirements are definitely that.
So I've also had numerous. So Josh Morse was recently recently sworn in as a member of the Green Meadow building committee. Once he was sworn in, I started talking to him. So some background. Josh Morse is the facilities director for the town of Newton, who manages about 80 buildings. And I talked to him about geothermal. I talked to him about the water savings, and based upon the discounted cash flow models he has run, and I could actually forward you some emails that he sent me with the DCF models. Based on the DCF models that he has run, he has seen net cost savings from the geothermal, operational cost savings from the geothermal. That is well in excess, that justifies the well significant enough that it justifies the capital expense. More than justifies, actually.
Has the sponsor comments been written for this article yet? Because the draft I have does not have those included.
Yes. I'll resend it to you.
Okay, thanks.
But I do think, and we spoke of this, I think we spoke of this briefly the other time. I said, at the last meeting, I feel like from a financial standpoint, the new school is a better investment than renovating. I think Khadijah, you agreed with me as well. And that was just, that was informed opinion at that point, and now it's been shorn up a little bit when I started doing some admittedly napkin calculations, but the best we really have at the time is that, yeah, our intuition regarding what's the better investment opportunity is indeed correct. It's been confirmed so far, not only by my napkin calculations, but by the Green Meadow Building, by my interactions with the Green Meadow Building Committee.
I see it. It's the the ones from 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yep. I was about to resend it to you, so you got it. Yep.
Got it. I just didn't see it. This the one? Is this the right window? Here we go. So
That's
here's
it.
the sponsor comments. So I actually haven't seen these yet.
But you guys are touching on, I actually thought you'd already read it because it sounds like you're on the same track. This speaks to a lot more of like the tangible day to day, like why it's important to replace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like those sponsor comments. I like how
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
really states the need for a new school.
Okay, so the numbers, it's good to see these numbers because it says at least this number. And I think in my comments, I have like 29 something. Okay, this is good. So
Juliet,
yep, go ahead.
I'm forwarding you an email right now that I received from Josh Morris. I was under the impression he had sent it to you, but maybe he didn't, or maybe you didn't receive it. But I
I
just
put
forwarded.
some of his emails in the, what is it, the comments or the section or whatever on our select board, on the board docs.
Yeah.
So he has forwarded me some of these calculations that he has done. And I have forwarded them to the committee.
Okay.
To my knowledge.
Yeah. So, Linda, to answer your question, a lot of it was done. I'm not a buildings guy. I'm not a building professional, so I just, these were napkin calculations I did, and then I received these detailed calculations from a building professional who's now serving on the Green Meadow Building Committee, and his numbers check out. And when you factor in those operational cost savings, along with that DCF model that I did, it's very clear the new building is a prudent financial investment versus the renovating of the Green Meadow.
I agree on the capital expense. I haven't seen enough information on the long-term on the hit on the operating budget, but But you know, I haven't talked to this person. I'm actually looking for the memos now that we've seen that I've kind of missed those, so. But I
They
think
should
on
also
I mean, we
be-
voted to recommend on the capital expenditure. I think that's absolutely for sure. I just think we're going a little far to say to town meeting that the cost of operating this new bigger building is going to be less than the existing building, but.
But I
hopefully-
feel like if we can't project town finances like 3 years in the future, we probably shouldn't try to project school finances 30 years in the future, but that's just my 2 cents.
If you could, you're hired. Just want to.
I'll get out
Do
my
you
crystal
think-
ball for you.
Yeah.
If we weaken the language, and say if we weaken
Yeah,
the
I have
language,
a
we would get on board.
suggestion here. Let's ba-doo-ba-doo. Here we go. Am I sharing the right window? Is this the recommendation? I think so. So,
Yes.
so I wrote something like this. I changed your last sentence to say this. It's FinCom's opinion that building a new school has numerous benefits, including potential energy and operational savings of new construction, and warrant the cost to town taxpayers.
The only thing I would say is operational cost savings.
Oh,
Otherwise, I think that achieves my objective.
is that something that the rest of the committee is comfortable with, or do we
I
want to
think
convey?
using the word potential, you know, we're not, I think keeps it safe.
I would add one more thing: energy, comma, water, and operational cost savings. Because water is also a big deal as well. Probably I would even say water is is a bigger deal to this town than energy, actually. But yeah,
What is an operational cost?
but I think we need to
Yeah.
emphasize that because we are under our water supply is being strained. So anything we could do to reduce our water usage is super important to this town.
Okay.
So I would call it out specifically, like even though it's somewhat redundant. I mean, energy is also redundant, but I would call out specifically like energy, water, and operational cost savings.
Is there just like a word for that though, like green energy or something that means all three things?
I would prefer if we called it out specifically because
Natural
those are
resources. They're
yeah.
considered natural resources.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's good.
I feel like we should call it out specifically though, because particularly water has a special meaning in this town because Justin has been telling everyone he knows about all the water supply pressure. I mean, all the water supply challenges we have. There we go, like water, electricity. There, perfect.
Electric
Electricity.
electricity.
Actually, it'd
don't
be more
spell-
than just electricity. It'd be energy, water energy,
There
because
we
there's
go.
like we have natural gas heating.
Is that English? All right.
Including potential natural and operational costs in new construction.
Dylan, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Is it worth mentioning maybe indirect benefits such as retaining staff and you know, student retention? I know a new building or updated facilities. I mean, there is data that is cited a lot of places, but
Yeah, the impression I got from our last meeting is something that we should maybe shy away from.
okay.
I think that was the impression at least I got from Brian, is that people don't necessarily stay because it's a new building. They stay because, you know,
No, I'm-
XYZ is something.
Yeah, I mean compensation, but as far as well, I just think that the climate of there's a lot of teacher, you know, people leaving the education world, and it is having adequate facilities or that support the workforce, I think by general means are an indirect benefit. And again, also there's the student aspect of student retention.
Hmm. Too many potentials. Yeah. Okay.
Including potential natural resource.
Savings as well as
I would actually strike new construction. I would just say operational cost savings and not and omit new construction. Or say operational cost savings from new construction. But probably, I would just say just eliminate new construction. It's not necessary to convey what's going on.
okay. And then the other paragraph talks more about numbers. So these are the numbers we talked about last time, and I'm sort of just perusing over these comments to see if they're similar. So the only thing that looks slightly different is there's a number 28, basically like 29K potentially in these state grant funds. So we have an approximate here. So I think that's a little different. It's about $1 million less potentially.
I would take out estimated that the MSBA grant, because my understanding from the last meeting is that we already have that much based on the plans we proposed, and that we are eligible for another 6 million. So it'd be like at least 29.
It looks like the sponsor's comment says at least 28, not 29.
Well,
Oh.
yeah, that works for me as well. As long as it's that we will have at least this much, rather than it's estimated that we could have this much.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't think you should take estimated out, because I've worked with the MSBA and they don't promise reimbursements. They estimate them and then they come through and do a walkthrough. So I wouldn't take out estimated. Nothing is guaranteed with that organization.
Jillian, maybe after the 83.6 million.
yeah.
Okay, and it is projected that the MS, just to so we don't say estimated a million times. Well, that one you could keep. I think that one was good, and it is projected that maybe the sentence right above it after 83.6 million.
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah, and it is projected that the MSBA will grant support at an estimated, maybe.
Oh, I said estimated in the same sentence twice.
I think projected could fit.
Yep. So the only thing is that these two numbers do not add up to that number anymore, based on this new number that's in the sponsor's comments.
Ah.
So that's a slight concern. I got my calculator. Okay. Yeah, so I think, do we have any additional, if we're just going to be doing wording stuff, do we have any additional need for Greg to stay on this call? I want to be sensitive. It's almost 10 o'clock, so. No, okay. Yeah, so you're totally welcome to stay, Greg, but I'm trying to be sensitive. I know that you have a lot of work in the town, so I don't want to make you stay until 10 for me editing words.
No, but I want to be supportive. Is this your last article?
I think the very last article is the citizens petition, actually. So
I've been forwarding. I think I've been forwarding you everything I've been getting from town council, anyways. About
so my understanding is that it's advisory more than binding. So
Yeah, that's what council says. So that's all I would say too. I don't really get mixed up with citizens petition stuff. So, all right. Okay,
Yep,
well, thank you
and
so
then I
much.
just literally, so cool.
All right, but good work, everyone. Thank you so much for your attention and patience.
Thanks,
Great.
Greg.
Night.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so, yep, so keeping in mind it's almost 10 o'clock and we still have to do another article.
So I have my biggest concern now is these estimated taxpayer impacts.
Yep,
Like someone's gonna read this and think this is like the total cost, and I have a choice between paying $14.65 a month for renovating the school. If we scroll down, I could get you the exact number. If we scroll down again, like to the, let me just, yeah. So versus building, wait, that can't be right. Cost, you have the building new as cheaper than, so the cost of renovating is $14.65. The cost for building new is $10.86. Is that even?
these are opposite, sorry, these are opposite. They're opposite.
So, well, before you even fix it, Jillian, I think we should just shy away from hard numbers, particularly with the cost to the taxpayer, because as pointed out, there's very clearly operational cost savings to be had. We just don't know the exact numbers. But because we don't know the exact numbers, I don't feel confident like quoting like, hey, you're either going to be paying like $10 in taxes a month or 14, because there's going to be operational cost savings with the building new. That's going to, there's hidden costs here. There's hidden costs to renovating. There's hidden costs to the new school that we can't really pin down. I probably would, I would say we should shy away from giving firm numbers like that because it's misleading. I mean, the truth of the matter is a lot more fuzzy and less definitive than what we're conveying. I think, what we want to convey is that, we feel like it warrants the cost, which is why I want to focus on the financial aspect. Yeah, I don't have like firm 100% confident numbers, but it is my strong opinion that there's financial savings to be had with the new building. But offering firm numbers, we're conveying a false, not only are we conveying the false sense of certainty, we're actually like pointing like your average Joe in the wrong direction. Because I think like, average Joe reading this is going to think that renovating the school is the cheaper option when they're a lot closer together. And in fact, it's probably even leaning towards building a new school as the cheaper option.
So I would recommend that we maybe shorten it just to this paragraph then. And delete the other numbers, because as you said, it's a little bit of spaghetti math.
And so I would just modify it. So we know the capital costs for sure, but we have operational costs in there. So I would say is the upfront capital cost of renovating the current building is estimated to be $40 million, where a new building is at approximately $54 million upfront. However, it is FinCom's opinion that building a new school has numerous benefits. Yeah, so we have a however in there. So we give them the upfront capital cost, but we say, however, there's operational cost savings to be had with a new school.
All right, I see a couple hands shot up here. I can't really see who it is because I'm full screen right now.
You got a bunch. I'm just reading from left to right from I see Natasha
Yeah,
has her
sure.
hand up. Katie.
Natasha, go ahead. You were before me and might have a similar point.
I think it would be important to highlight that there's no zero cost. I know we've done this before, but I almost feel like it needs to be very explicitly stated, and it was stated in prior that there is no zero cost, because I think the argument that we're hearing is that tax is already going up too much. That I think the chart, which you attempted to do, Jillian, was to get at taxes are going to go up regardless of whether it's new construction or renovation. And so it's just a matter of what is that nexus between the two, and it was really only an approximation. So I think that is where that importance of that chart came into play, is just to re-emphasize, which I think is necessary, that there is no zero cost to taxpayers moving forward. It's just a matter of what is the better investment. That was my comment.
So we could probably say this as a sentence. Okay, yeah, perfect.
You all can see how terrible I spell.
That's right. I would say not needs. I would say legal obligations and needs. Because a lot of these renovations, they are Massachusetts law. We are not going to have a choice in the matter.
Pursued.
I always spell that word wrong, just as an FYI.
I always spell that word wrong. I always spell a lot of words wrong.
The E and the U, yep, I always, it's the same word all the time. It's always my spell check. And maintenance too. As much as I type
Yeah.
maintenance, you would think I'd get maintenance right at this point.
Towards educating our children. I don't know.
I would just leave it at legal obligations. We have numerous legal obligations.
Okay.
Not just limited to educating the children, as pointed out, we also use the schools as emergency shelters. Yeah, I would just neglect the parentheses. I would just say there are no, yeah, so I would say, that would be the first sentence. There is no zero cost option. First, that's the first sentence. One of these options must be pursued to fulfill the needs of the town and meet its legal obligations.
Right. I think there's more hands that are still raised.
Yeah, I'll read them off just left to right from what I see on the screen. Katie, I
Oh.
didn't see who had their hand up first, but I'll just go left to right. Katie has her hand up. Nathan has her hand up. Linda has her hand up.
I was just gonna note, and maybe that helped slightly. When we deleted it, the other paragraphs, we took out the part where we thought the education component was important as well. So I don't know in that first paragraph if we want to say, like the last one, including potential natural resources and operational cost savings, as well as however that was worded, educational necessities, or I don't know if we want to keep that in somewhere.
This was the sentence I think you're talking about. This one right here.
Yes, yes. I like that one.
With income, seeing the price difference for town.
I don't think it's good English either, but
Yeah, but the point is
Yeah.
good though. I like the
Yeah.
point that you're making. I mean, maybe we can work over the next like half day. I don't know if there's a Google Doc that we can like jointly
we
critique
can't do
this.
that.
We
It's
can't-
Oh, we
we can't.
can't.
Open
Okay.
meeting
Open
law.
meeting
It's not
law.
allowed.
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, so what I would say after that last sentence, in addition,
After what last sentence? This one?
after taxpayers. In addition, the new school will provide numerous and substantial but intangible educational benefits to our student population. The new school will
That-
provide
That a renovated, that the old school renovated would not fulfill.
perfect. Thank you for that addition, Nathan. That is you expressed it far better than I did. But yeah, that's so yeah, in addition, the new school will provide numerous educational benefits, numerous intangible educational benefits that a renovation will not be able to fulfill. Yeah, so yeah, after taxpayers, in addition, a new building will provide numerous educational benefits that a renovation would not be able to fulfill, that the renovation option would not, that renovation would not be able to fulfill. Numerous, not new, numerous. And education, numerous educational.
Can we say like a new school will, bring our education into the 21st century? It will reduce our energy costs. It will, improve property values and be like fully compliant with yada yada yada. And we have like the state funding for it versus spending $40 million to renovate an old building that was still built with like 20th century needs in mind, that would still not have any air conditioning or like central air. I don't know, like and only lasts us like 25 years, just kicking the can down the road. Do any of those ideas seem like something we should have in here?
So I think we've distilled, like we covered a lot of those details. I think we distilled it down to that first sentence. Has numerous benefits, including potential natural resources. There's your water and energy and operational cost savings. The lifetime aspect is a little bit difficult. It's a little bit difficult to explain. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to explain to a layperson. Like the discounted cash flow. I think, we are FinCom. It's our job to be experts in this area. I think we can ask town meeting voters to take our informed, to trust us on our informed opinion, but have the supporting materials ready to go if they want to drill into the details at town meeting. I don't know,
Also
Jillian.
worth mentioning that you could end up spending more than 40 million over the lifetime, that same 50 years, because you're renovating. And then there might be other, you're going to be expensing at some point after 25 years, you're going to have to expense more, which would, again, even further close that gap of new building versus reno.
Yeah, so we already factored that in, Natasha. I mean, we could go into the details. I don't know if we want
The
to.
40 million, I think the 40 was just a reno, but I don't think it talked about like a life cycle having to over 50 years. That just only was for 25.
So that was the discounted. So I actually ran it out to infinity. So I did a discounted cash flow model. What's the scenario is building a new school every 50 years in perpetuity as the official term, or renovating every 25 years in perpetuity. And I've got using the numbers that are in that were down there, the 40 million versus I think the 54, the renovation comes out to like a net present value of like 57 million. And the new school option comes out to a net present value of 59. That's just, assuming you're doing reno every 25 years, and that's not like the day-to-day operational expense savings that you have.
You're not adding in though the cost of, I mean, it's not going to cost the same to put a new same amount in 50 years and 25 years. So the cost to do another renovation won't be 40 million in 25 years.
Right. So there isn't.
So I
there
think
is
you're,
inflation.
I think that's where that model probably isn't solid.
Yeah. So it actually will come out. So if we factor in inflation, right? So that shows up in the discount factor. I know we're talking shop here, but yeah, so that shows up in the discount factor. So with inflation, we should probably add, assuming cost inflation, let's just add a conservative 3%. So it's like 8% effective discount factor instead of 5. So if we do that.
So I don't want to get too deep in the hole here because we still have an article left.
I mean, yeah, so I think the end point, Natasha, is we could get into the weeds of this thing. At the end of the day, um, you know, it's all projection. It's all uncertain, but at the end of the day, I'm confident in saying that the new school is a better investment than the renovation. Just with my finance background and keep running the discounted models. I mean, we could run detailed numbers, but it's all uncertain. There's like uncertainty bounds, and I don't think it doesn't really, it benefits us nerds, like us finance nerds are into that sort of thing, but it gets lost in translation. I don't think I'll be prepared and ready to go into the details if we get like some smart aleck at town meeting that wants to go into it, but I don't think town meeting voters are really going to go into the weeds of a discounted cash flow model. Um, I'm under the impression that, it's our job as FinCom to give our informed opinion, and I'm giving my informed opinion. And my informed opinion is that the new school is a better investment based upon the financial models I've run. And again, if someone wants to go into the details at town meeting, I'll be happy to oblige them, but I don't think anyone's going to go there.
Yeah, the only thing that's not in this paragraph is about how right now we can participate in the MSBA program, which is where I got this 54 million instead of the,
Yeah, I think we should have a note about that, we currently have the opportunity for
I just don't know.
I
where
think
to put it.
yeah. So
You have it covered because you say it's the town cost of renovating.
Yes,
Or
I
in the
do,
town
but I didn't
cost,
know
so I
if we
think
should
it's
be
covered.
specific. Okay. I think that the sponsors' comments cover it very nicely, so maybe we
Yeah.
don't need to get in there. All right.
Yeah,
Does
I
anyone
think we're
else have
I
any
think
feedback?
I'm honestly happy with this level of detail. I think we're all like finance nerds, so we all like
Right.
go into way too much detail on things that get kind of, the average Joe doesn't want to go down. I mean, I love this stuff, but I think, I could talk, as you probably have experienced, and I apologize, but I could talk people to death about this sort of stuff. So
All right. So do we all feel good about this? Can we move
I
on
think
to
we're
Article
good.
number 4?
I think we're good.
Can we rewrite the first two sentences? I feel like could be a little bit stronger in terms of like, could we say like the current school is old, overcrowded, it doesn't have central air, and it needs to be like it urgently needs to be fixed one way or another.
They're all gonna send me back to elementary school because I can't spell.
But see sponsor comments.
The
Yeah.
state has offered us like around
Yeah.
$30 million to build a brand new school.
Right. At one point, it was the 11th worst in the state. Like those are that's a scary kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
You want
all very, very
Yeah.
outlined in the sponsors'
to
comments.
sponsor comments.
Okay. All right. Good. Thanks. I thought that was going to take a while, and it did, but we got it there. So we appreciate it. Thanks for sticking through it, Natasha. All right. So if I'm not mistaken, I think the only article left is the citizens petition. So there's no more school topics. If you would like to depart for the night, please feel welcome to.
I'm hanging out. I'm a liaison anyway, so I'm fine.
Ah, yes. Okay. You are most welcome this day. All right. Don't save that. All right. So article number 4. So I will share the article as it is written. Somewhere. Here it is. Share. Okay. So this is the citizens petition that is requesting free cash up to $120 per year for a minimum of 5 years for the senior center lease. So this is, I don't believe anyone on the call is from this group, but I could be wrong because I can't see anybody. Linda, did you say someone on the call?
I think Marianne Shields, are you on the Council on Aging?
The Council on Aging Board.
Board,
Well,
sorry.
I am not on the
They're not-
focus group.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you for joining us. Sorry, this article was last, but we want to make sure we have a robust discussion. So the feedback I've gotten and that I forwarded to the rest of the committee is that, you know, this petition does not necessarily comply with the town charter budget process. So that process, the requests generally are made to the town administrator by January 1st to be considered for the upcoming year. And since it's already FY24, it was a little bit confusing about how this could sort of go around that budget process because it wasn't submitted by January 1st of the prior to meet the fiscal year requirements. So that was one thing I wanted to note for this. And another thing is that it says the language up to $120,000 a year, and it doesn't specify a specific amount. And that makes it difficult for the town staff that are preparing the budget to plan for what that number might be. Up to means it could be anything from $1, they could Bob Barker it, or, you know, Price is Right, all the way up to 120. So, and I appreciate that the citizens petition, they were trying to be flexible to allow for some room, perhaps on years where the free cash was not a lot of money. But I think the feedback that I got from legal counsel that I sort of forwarded you all was that this is advisory. So in the past, we've had some articles that are advisory that are sort of recommending a certain spirit to the select board, saying, you know, we'd like you to set aside some money for this initiative, but they're not necessarily binding. So that means that it's not required. And usually, I think based on the past for articles that were advisory, you know, the select board has taken them under advisement for the following budget cycle. But they're not necessarily a strict requirement, if that makes sense with words. But, you know, my concern is that, you know, it doesn't necessarily comply with the normal budget process. You know, it didn't go through that budget process where, you know, each of the boards get together. You know, the select board adopts the budget from the town administrator. We hold public hearings and make recommendations about it. So it sort of is a unique standalone. So I want to make sure that if it's accepted, it doesn't undermine charter mandated budget process moving forward, to have like sort of a free for all, so to speak. You know, and I know that that's not the intention that the feeling of intention that I got from this citizens petition group. I think, you know, they're coming forward with the best of intentions from what I can tell. But I think that maybe we could help guide them for other processes as well, ways to go about this, you know, because I still have some potential outstanding questions about, and I don't know if Marianne, if you have any input on, you know, where that number came from, like why is it 120? Why is it 5 years? Who negotiates the lease? Like how competitive is it? But
well, the COA board was not involved in the development of this project, the citizens petition.
this is completely
And
different.
we do not have we have not adopted a position on it. I
Okay.
can tell you that I do know that the figure that was selected came from a discussion that the focus group had with Millen, Maine about a specific space within the Millen, Maine property. And at that time, this was not a negotiated price, but it was a price that, let's just say it was floated there.
Okay.
So.
All right, like a verbal offering type price.
I'm not sure because
not even
we were
sure.
not involved. We
You
were not
weren't
involved.
involved.
We've got
Yep.
our own plan of action, but we were not involved with this. So
Okay.
I can't give you any more information than that.
Oh.
Right.
Okay. So Jillian, I did see those emails from town council, and
Mhm.
I a lot of what she said, a lot of the like diktat in that discussion really didn't make a lot of sense to me. I think she was under the impression this was a capital expenditure when in fact it's a lease.
That is
But
capital
for
building lease.
but I mean, for the sake of expediency, because I don't want to turn this into a debate of like what the rights of a citizen petition are. Um, my feeling is that I will not recommend this article, but with a whole bunch of caveats. Um, my reason for not recommending this article would be because of the specification that the funding come from free cash. That on its face creates a whole bunch of operational difficulties that will make it very difficult for the town to adhere to the letter of the law. And instead of like focusing on everything the town council says, I think we should just focus on that free cash appropriation instead of turning this into a long, arduous debate about the rights of
Mhm.
citizens petitions. I think we just focus on the free cash because it's very clear, it's an operational non-starter. We can't appropriate from free cash because we don't know what the free cash is going to be. That being said, I think there has to be a whole lot of nuance in the recommendation. I think like the spirit of it, like, yes, I think I am personally supportive of putting our senior, leasing some space to put our seniors in, not necessarily tying ourselves to Mill and Main. And I think I even told this to them. It has to go through the proper procurement process. You can't call out specifically Mill and Main. That's not sound operation. So in the spirit of this, like, yes, it's supportive, but as FinCom, we have to make the recommendation of the article as it is written. As it is written, this is an operational non-starter because of the specification of free cash, and I would vote to not recommend.
Okay. I see a hand raised. I can't really see who. Please go ahead.
Might be me.
Okay.
It's Linda. I concur with Kevin that in reading the emails, and the most recent was from DOR. There was concern about the up to 120,000, so there's no sum certain, and also obligating the town to 5 years. It seems like that was problematic, that would only be in employment contracts. So that seemed to be another reason why this specific model wasn't good, even though, as Kevin said, we should have some caveats that we certainly appreciate. At least I appreciate the need that was well written and researched for some space, and that the golf course, the clubhouse, is not the right space. So this is a need that the town has that we've got to address somehow soon. And I don't know if in our recommendations we can recommend some alternatives, but there was just too many difficulties in the way they're proposing to fund this.
So let me also say that there have been articles brought to town meeting by the select board that detailed the lease of equipment. And it should be possible for a citizen's petition to do the same. The select board has no special rights over capital expenditure under certain circumstances specified by Massachusetts law. So if the select board can bring an article specifying like the lease of an ambulance, for example, that was most recently dealt with at the last annual town meeting, citizens petition should be able to do the same. And that's what I'll say about the rights of citizens petitions to keep this expedient. That being said, there should be a way to structure this article to achieve the objective that these citizens petitions want, that are in full compliance with the Massachusetts law and town charter. This article does not. So I think on the face of it, don't recommend. We support the spirit. But in response to Linda, we could be, we can specify, like our feeling about like the direction of the town, but we have to be careful. We maybe there's some more experience. Maybe I'm the more. No, Jillian's been here before, so
Mm.
you cannot, as a body of FinCom, we cannot write the article for them.
That is correct.
We cannot write the article for them. They have to write the article. Is their response is the petitioner's responsibility to make sure that the article, as they bring to town, the warrant article they bring to town meeting, is in compliance with the law, or the amendment that they make is in compliance with the law. However, as noted by DOR, the warrant is not this legally binding thing. It is a discussion, is a initiator of the discussion. The warrant article itself does not dictate what the law is going to be. It is a guidance for discussion. It is perfectly permissible to bring this to town meeting and have it amended on the floor. And have the amendment, hopefully, if it would be it would be in the interest of the petitioner to make an amendment that would be in compliance with our town charter and with the law. I don't think it's violating the budget proportion. I think it's operationally difficult because it specifies free cash.
Okay.
I'll give 30 seconds, then I'll make a motion to not recommend. All right, I move to not recommend, what is it, Article 7?
4.
Sorry. I move to not recommend Article 4. Emphasis on not.
All right, a motion has been made. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, Nathan seconds to not recommend. Okay. So since it's getting late, I will just confirm, so I will open it up to discussion first. So the motion has been made and seconded to not recommend.
Oh,
I see a
Khadija
hand.
has a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about the town leasing a space. Is that normal? Has that been done? Is there some precedence for that? That the
Yeah, I
town,
think there's a nearby town of, I think it was actually in the sponsors' comments. I don't remember if it was Stowe or one of the other nearby towns rents space, I think.
I think in Acton.
Acton.
ah,
For similar purposes.
okay.
So, I mean, I think it's something that the town can do. Is that you were asking if that's something the town has the power to do?
Yeah, I'm asking if the town has done that in the past, and if that is something your answer is that other towns do it, so it is a acceptable practice. I also will not recommend this petition because the way it went, I'd rather see it come from the Council on Aging. I'd rather see it come from a committee than a citizen's petition, but I think the timing is wrong as well. So I won't vote in favor of this.
Okay. Is there a hand raised, I think, from Marianne?
Yes, I wanted to say that I very much appreciate the interest in solving the problem that is evidenced by the Finance Committee this evening. And I would also like to let you know that the Council on Aging Board has adopted a plan of action to move forward based on the results of the survey that Caitlin Coyle and UMass are going to do about the needs of senior citizens in Maynard. And we will be distributing copies of that plan within the next month to the select board, the finance committee, capital planning, town administrator, of course. It's a living document. We understand that a lot of input is going to be needed. We'll be asking your committee for your input too, to assure that our plan of action does conform with legal requirements and as well as the wonderful spirit that the focus group has shown. We owe them a lot. They have really moved this project forward, and we appreciate their doing that.
Okay. Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm.
We're interested to see the results of that survey.
We are too. I'm expecting some surprises. I think we're going to see some surprises.
Point of inquiry for the chair. Here.
Oop, I think your microphone cut out, or I'm
Yeah. Point of inquiry for the chair. We just took did we hold the vote already to not recommend, or are we still having?
We're in the discussion phase.
We're in the discussion. Sorry, had a slight mental lapse there.
That's okay. I'm getting to that point too.
Can I recommend or move to take the vote?
Yeah. So we have a motion. We
Yep.
don't.
It's been made and seconded. Yep.
Yep.
So if there's no further discussion, I will take a roll call vote. Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing because I can't see. Okay, so upon hearing no more further discussion, I will take a roll call vote. So the vote is to not recommend. So if you vote yes, you are not recommending. So just to be clear, because I get backwards all the time. Okay, Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah,
Yes.
Katie.
Yes.
I am also a yes. So that is a unanimous do not recommend, or just not recommend. Okay, so the last thing between us and ending this meeting is writing a sentence about why we just voted that way.
Let me.
I started making words. So we do not recommend. I think it's important to put that it's a very valuable service to the town, and we appreciate the spirit of the article.
Yes.
But FinCom does not recommend because it has an unknown requested sum per year. Basically, I want to say it's unknown or uncertain requested sum per year. So that's the up to language. And then the yearly value of free cash is not known until DOR certifies it.
Yeah, I would honestly, I would just leave it at those two reasons. I would strike from the recommendation all this stuff about budget requests, because I mean, my understanding of the town charter, I think, there's something going on with town council. Maybe she was not fully informed of the situation, but you don't have to go through town administrator to alter the budget as a citizen's petition. That I am sure of. So I think we avoid like all these like nebulous, these unclear things that we would need a detailed conversation with town council to resolve, and just focus on like the definitive, like known, like legal flaws in the article. So yeah, reason number one is you need to, and this might strike people as a technicality, but you have to provide a specific amount. I know they're trying to be flexible and appreciate that flexibility, but you just specify a specific amount. And if we don't spend that specific amount, then it reverts to free cash. You don't have to provide that flexibility in the article. So that's what doomed it legally. Legally, that's Department of Revenue. So legally, what doomed it is you did include a specific amount. And then the second one, and this is really the more operational, like I'm not, like, this is, legal technicality was the first one. The second one, which is a little bit more concerning, is the specification of free cash as the funding source. They could just say, as DOR said, they could just say as the funding source, raise and appropriate. There are lots of valid funding sources out there. But one of them that's not valid is free cash, because we don't know what free cash is going to be. So although there are valid funding sources, my preference would be, and this is getting a little bit more speculative, is that they don't say raise and appropriate, but they actually, I mean, for special town meeting, it's like annual town meeting, it would be probably okay to do raise and appropriate. Because we could always adjust, we could adjust. The town has the opportunity to adjust the budget at special to accommodate the request. But at special, like if they say raise and appropriate, there's no time to adjust our budget. Like they're putting us, they would actually be creating a mini crisis for our town by saying raise and appropriate at special, because we have to finalize the budget by November, because that's when tax rates are set. So, for special, they really have to say, for annual, it's a different story, but for special, they really have to say where the money is going to come from. So that could be like an override. Well, even now it's late. It's too late for an override. Like we can't really do an override that quickly. Again, another mini crisis. So really the only way they could fund this at this special town meeting would be to cut the money from somewhere else. I mean, this is just my personal opinion, but FinCom's, I think in our recommendation, what we should say is that, free cash is a non-starter because you don't know what free cash is. The only way FinCom could see this moving forward is if they were to specify that this money if they were to cut this money from some other item on the budget.
It's not our role to tell them how to write their article, so it's almost 10:30. So I just want to circle back. So I think we should write something short and concise that sort of reflects that. So does the committee feel that these couple sentences here reflect what we've been discussing? So we said the phrase up to does not contain a certain sum, and free cash varies year to year and is unknown until certification. So this funding source is not definite.
If I just add one more sentence, the article as written would cause significant challenge. There would be significant challenges for the executive branch to comply with the article as written. Or I would say near insurmountable challenges.
It's not even close to words. It's not even coming up with spell check. So,
it looked right to me. No.
All right. Not even close. Am I not in English? That's not how you spell it. But I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So
for
the executive. For the executive, there'd be significant challenges for the executive branch to comply with this article as written.
I completely missed what you said.
Yeah, there would be significant, actually, I'd say there would be near insurmountable challenges for the executive branch to comply with this article as it is written.
Challenge for the town. I don't know. I don't know if that's really our place to say what the town and can't do.
Well, it based upon the feedback we've received from the executive branch, based upon the difficulty of appropriating from free cash, I would say, yeah, you'd be putting this is why they say it's advisory, because there's almost no way that I could see that the Greg or the select board could actually comply with this article if they were bound to it.
So. How's that?
Yep.
Get rid of it. And there are, that is right. Okay.
I would even, put some context to the phrase up to 120,000. I would say per and per DOR Mass Department of Revenue guidance. So yeah, after a certain sum. So let's quote from that DOR email regarding that certain sum. Let me see what they said exactly. So we forward their exact words regarding that exact sum. Like I would even just quote from that email.
I don't think I copied that email in my notes.
See, I'm looking at it.
I just had.
I think you get the point, Jill, or you're making the
Yeah.
point. Fine.
Okay. Are there any other words more better? Because this is, I think this is the last.
Yeah, you think you have something highlighted as? I'm just interested what the word processor thinks is wrong as.
Was. I don't think that's.
No, as written is probably the better choice.
Syntactically in that sentence, FinCom does not recommend this article because of the associated uncertainty and the anticipated challenges.
Good catch.
Okay.
Do we want to? Did we decide not to mention the thing about binding the annual budget for the next 5 years through a warrant because the budget is set each year?
Yeah. Free cash varies from year to year.
So I would avoid talking about that, Nathan, because there's a way to structure articles. And I don't know what the right way is, but there's a way to structure articles to say, to direct the town to enter in a contract to lease a space for X amount of years.
Mm.
And then, and there's like references like with the ambulance, every year they come back and say like, we're in year 3 of the lease here, this article is to fund the money due for year 3 of the lease. This article's due, every year, this article is to fund the lease to make the rent payments. So I think that's the way it's structured, but I know, there's a way to structure it. I'm not going to say what and give the details of what, but there's a way to structure it that would achieve their objective. I just don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's out there.
All right. So if there's no further comments on the way this is written, I would say that we move on.
Maybe one last thing in the first sentence, when we say we appreciate the spirit of the article, can we say like appreciates the spirit of this article and the need for a like new senior center?
Yeah. So we even say that, could we even say that FinCom believes that, could we say something like, FinCom believes it would be to the benefit of the town for there to, FinCom believes the spirit of this article would be a benefit for this town. And
I think that's well said.
however, because I mean, personally, I am sympathetic to, I'm inclined to actually say that it would be beneficial to get the seniors um out of the clubhouse and into a space, and it would also be beneficial to lease instead of adding to our maintenance responsibilities of our stretch DPW.
Okay, so, yeah. Something like that.
I think you added that onto the wrong sentence.
And I did.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Shouldn't the desire for a new senior center, shouldn't that be after appreciates the spirit for the article? Right now it's saying that the Maynard Senior Center.
Yeah. I think this sentence is now redundant. I don't know if we need that.
Can we say that we recognize the need for a new senior center?
I feel like that's strong. I don't know. I understand the desire. I'll recognize the need once I see the report. Personally, I don't speak for the whole committee.
What was the phrase you wanted to add, Nathan?
Instead of desire, he wants to use the word need. I'm not personally familiar with, how many people use the senior center and what the costs are. I just don't know that off the top of my head.
I think it's better to be cautionary in that one.
Yeah, I would not classify it as a need. I think, personally, I think they deserve, I think there's a strong desire for a community space. But I don't know if that's exactly a need
Community
per se.
in a new senior center? No.
Maybe instead of desire, could we say the case? Because desire is like, oh yeah, hey, I sympathize, but we're not giving it to you. I think, there is a case to be made, a strong case to be made for a new senior center.
But we haven't seen the case be made yet.
Yeah.
It
Well,
hasn't been made yet.
I think informally we have. I think the issues that I have with this article are not with the spirit of like, hey, let's build a new senior center, or not build, sorry. Let me be precise. I don't have issues with the spirit of like, hey, let's lease a building to provide a community space for our seniors. I am personally sympathetic. I'm personally in favor of that case. The issues I have with the warrant article are purely as it's written, and as detailed in its comments.
The second sentence, can we move as written from the end of the sentence to FinCom does not recommend this article as written because of the associated uncertainty?
I would second that notion. Let's put as written right at the front. Let's put that right as the lead.
Cool. Yeah, I think that gets the message across that we like this, just not the way that's come as written.
Okay. Are we all satisfied with that wording?
I would just add one thing, and this after a certain sum, and this is and this is a does not contain a certain sum, and this is a legal requirement.
As legally required by DOR.
Yeah, I think that would be better to say as legally required by the department. Don't say DOR, say Department of Revenue, as Massachusetts Department of Revenue.
I'll just say as required, so then we don't have to specify.
And difficult to anticipate. I think, anticipate the fund. I'd say anticipate the availability of funds for the next 5 years.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So if there's no more comments, these are what I will send to Greg. If you want, I can circulate to the committee. Or if there's any other comments on this, I think we're all set on these, right? There's no burning desires to revisit any of them. I can send these off to Greg to be printed. Hearing none.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Okay. Thanks for sticking through that painful exercise. So I think next time, what we typically do and what's a bit easier is each person on the committee takes, 1 or 2 articles and writes the comment themselves. And then we bring the articles back to the rest of the committee. And then we sort of edit them. We don't usually have to do them all in one shot, but I feel like the STM this year was, I don't know, it snuck up on us. So I think that's all of our, from our, what you call it? Where are we? 9:25. So this is the, yep, so that's all the stuff we have right here. So all we have left now is any other updates from members. And I'm not hearing any updates from anyone.
I move to adjourn.
So I would say before it is seconded, I propose that we vote on our minutes at our next meeting on the 25th because it's very late. So Kevin, if you could send the minutes ahead of time to the committee, that would be much appreciated. So I can circulate them. So I'm looking for the minutes of the 17th, the 28th, and today, the 11th.
All right, I will get those to you.
And Jill, I think we're good, right, with the town clerk. I think we're.
I think so. So I saw that you forwarded all of last year's minutes. So I will, I guess, just check with them. I think that should be all the meetings, but I'll double check. So thanks for sending all the approved minutes. So
yeah, and I missed a couple meetings. I think at the end of it, and maybe, but yeah, they can let us know if there's any missing. I can try to dig. So let me know.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
and if there's any missing, we could ask Alana too.
Yeah.
So Jillian, I withdraw my motion to adjourn.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, it's the date was the what'd you say the dates were? We need 17th. Let me just make sure I have it. 20.
So I have July 17th, August 28th, and September 11th, which is today.
All right. I will forward those along.
All right, and we also have our public hearing on October 2nd at 7 p.m. So I will also post that. I'm not necessarily anticipating that we'll have a normal finance committee meeting outside of that. So I'm actually not sure what else we're going to talk about at our next meeting. So our next meeting is on September 25th, besides voting on our minutes. So are there any topics from the committee, like other groups that you liaison to that you think are coming up that we need to talk to? I'm not sure if I'll put on there, special town meeting discussions in case anything new comes up as an agenda topic. But since we voted on all of our recommendations and sent them all in, I'm hoping that it maybe will be a short meeting.
Might be an opportunity to start tackling the solid waste.
Yeah, so that is an option. I can see if Justin is available, if you want to make that meeting about the solid waste and the survey that he sent. So we could make that a potential topic. Are you
Alright, yeah.
still liaison to that committee, Kevin? Is that something we might want to invite the chair to?
Yeah, I mean, we could invite the chair. I believe I'm still liaison, although it's very difficult for me to make their meetings because they happen during working hours or right at the end of working hours at 5. So it's difficult. So if someone could take it over, it'd be appreciated. But I think as of now, I'm still liaison to them and DPW. But I'm more interested. Yeah, so I think we could invite the trash committee. I think we invite Justin. I'd like to talk about the past and the future. To understand, Justin received some information regarding the automated cart options that formed that presentation. I'd like to dive into some of those details, in addition to talk about the work that the solid waste task force is working on.
Good. So, so basically this is what I have right now. So I'll see if he's available. So planning for the special town meeting and public hearing. As a note, I will not be able to attend the town meeting in person. So I think someone will have to make the motions and recommendations on the floor since I won't be able to get there. Just as a heads up, we can talk about that more on the 25th. All right, and I'll see if he's available for solid waste discussion before I actually post this agenda and then routine agenda. Okay, any other topics for next time? Hearing none, I think you can make your motion now, Kevin.
Sorry for jumping the gun.
No worries.
Yeah, so I move to adjourn.
I second.
All right, you have Kevin's moved, Khadijah second. Any further discussion? Nope.
No.
All right, roll call vote. Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah,
Yes.
Katie.
Yes.
I'm also a yes. It is unanimous yes. Thank you everyone for sticking it out tonight. Appreciate it.